I've been the hunted, I've been the wolf, I've been the secret, yeah, and I've been the truth. They call me crazy, huh, yeah, they tried to lock me up. I've always been so free, baby, baby. I'm free, baby, baby. Just to be on me, baby, baby. I'm free, baby, baby. I've been the lemon, I've been the squeeze, I've been the heat wave, yeah, and I've been the breeze. They call me loco, yeah, they tried to lock me up. I've always been so free, baby, baby. I'm free, baby, baby. Just to be on me, baby, baby. I'm free, baby, baby. So free, baby, baby. I'm free, baby, baby. Just to be on me, baby, baby. I'm so free, baby, baby.
Hello, good evening, everyone, and we are back with another day of Kart Rider Drift League. My name is Will Cho, joined by State today, our first time casting this preseason, and we have a heck of a day lined up today.
Oh, it should be a stellar one. We got 4 teams all contesting for playoff spots, facing off the team match, and then we have HoJun and JJONG battling it out.
Heck yeah.
And the round of 16 in solos. I mean, it doesn't really get better than this during the preseason part of the preseason, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this feels like a postseason day already.
Yeah, no, absolutely, right? Like you said, we've got, what we would probably argue are still the 4 strongest teams, although currently we'll take a look at the leaderboard here in a second. Of course, Aura not quite holding on to 4th place on their own. They are tied for it. But at the same time, I mean, solos, the entire round of 16 is currently just absolutely star-studded. We had the match 1 yesterday, and then match 2, the second group today, just as stacked. It's kind of hard to tell which ones will move on. But of course, as it is, it's the weekend, so we have team matches and solos, and we will be beginning with those team matches. Take a look at how everything shakes up during the preseason. We got 8 teams. We go through the round-robin main stage, and then the top 4 will move on to the postseason.
Yeah, and a lot of those teams still vying for those spots. Of course, ROX, Liiv, SANDBOX, KWANGDONG, FREECS, 3 teams that are playing today that, all but assuredly will be vying for those top 4 and will be qualified for the postseason. Aura right now, as you see here in the standings, tied with Sensation right on the cusp by being top 4. That is the cutoff here. Both tied 2-2 in set scores in round. Only 1 round difference between Sensation and Aura. So Aura, their performance here in the first match against Seongnam ROX could be very important to deciding their fate here.
Yeah,
KDF
absolutely.
Preseason 2.
Yeah, I mean, this is huge, right? If they can beat ROX, then for one, they'll obviously get that 3-2 scoreline, and then it's up to Sensation, balls back in their court. But those two, I think, will constantly kind of go back and forth in terms of their win-loss record, and we might even have to wait until the very last matchup to see which one of those teams will take the top 4 spots. But like you mentioned, State, probably the top 3 still going to be Liiv, SANDBOX, KWANGDONG, FREECS, and Seongnam ROX. So we start with ROX versus Aura today. Then we move on to Liiv, SANDBOX, and KWANGDONG, FREECS, which, mind you, both teams are currently undefeated. So one of them will finally get their first loss of this preseason.
Yeah, and that's going to be a crazy match. I mean, that could very easily be the finals again here in KDL Preseason 2. And for many seasons to come, these teams just consistently looking so strong here in the KDL. And then, of course, in the solo match, we got Luning, we got JJONG, Hero, HoJun, Spear, Most, Spell, and JiMin. I mean, even the rookie, Most, is looking strong in this group, and it's just riddled with veterans. We're finally going to get JJONG versus HoJun, too, which we did not get to see at all in KDL Preseason 1. JJONG was just doing the team matches there for ROX, so... Oh, it's great. I am very glad that I'm casting today, and I'm going to see JJONG face off against HoJun here because, who knows how many more times we'll get to see it this season, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is kind of a matchup a lot of people have wanted to see. I mean, HoJun's kind of that figure, right? Although, sure, he looked a little shaky in preseason 1, it seems like he's really getting back into form, really kind of catching on to the nuances of Kart Rider Drift. But we can talk more about that once we get to the solo match at the end of the night. First off, we've got our team matches to go through, and our very first team to welcome onto the stage tonight will be Seongnam ROX.
Seongnam ROX playing very well this season. I mean, they looked incredible in preseason 1 on the back of JJONG's ace match heroics, but here in preseason 2, just all around way more solid. Would not be surprised to see these guys make a deep run towards that championship contention as they've really filled out their roster here. They've gotten better item mode, which was a critical weakness for them in preseason 2, and or preseason 1, excuse me. And now here in preseason 2, they don't even really need JJONG to solidify their position anymore. They're just playing so well.
Yeah, again, I think that's the biggest thing, right, is that they don't really have to rely on JJONG as much as, of course, he is still a superstar. But their opponents today is going to be Aura, and every time we welcome this team onto the stage, we always like to mention, sure, they don't have a pro team banner, behind them with the support and the infrastructure. However, the players, the roster is still a pretty strong lineup, and a lot of teams recognize them preseason 1, and that's why they made a deep run in the last preseason, and they're looking to do the same this time.
Yeah, with the Noctec duo and item mode, a lot of people were looking to them to be a force here in KDL Preseason 2 in item, but with the meta shift, the new rule changes, the balancing of item mode, it's not really been shaken out, but the addition of Luning to that roster as their new speed ace has been so clutch. Can't wait to get into this action, Will.
Yeah, again, I think the other story here between these two teams is that they clearly have made some good changes and additions to their roster, right? So we take a look at Seongnam ROX. The biggest story is Ding. He comes in, and I mean, just look at that stat line. He is in first place in average rank with an absolutely incredible number.
Yeah, his average rank so far this season, 1.57. So that's pretty much halfway split between first and second place in nearly every track in team mode. And just to put into perspective how insane that is ROX, they just decide they don't even need to trash talk Aura.
Yeah, they just say it's not worth our time. We're just going to focus on the race itself. But yeah, let's talk a little bit further about Ding's stat here.
Yeah, so Ding right now, his average rank in team speed, 1.57, right between first and second place. Now, the gap between him and the second place ranking player Hero on Team Aura, the runner, with 3.06 is as wide as the gap between Hero and Spear, who's in 18th. So, I mean, Ding right now, he truly stands alone at the top of team speed. He has been so clutch for this team, and I mean, what a fantastic addition. ROX just looking so strong, and Aura, it's going to be an uphill battle if they want to beat him, man.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we always like to say Aura's a strong team, and like you mentioned, I mean, Hero, he's constantly getting those podium finishes, and to have an average of third place, basically, across all your tracks that you've done in team speed is very impressive. I mean, if Ding wasn't here, we would be praising Hero out the wazoo, but Ding just says, well, why not just get first every time, right? Just get a #1 average, you know, ranking in all of your tracks. So that's where Hero's getting a little bit eclipsed. Of course, Aura just saying, okay, well, Sensation won last night. That puts us in a little bit of danger of making it to that playoff stage here in Preseason 2. So they're really trying to look to solidify their position once again tonight.
They're going to take out their anger as, you know, losses. It's hard to take those well. A little bit of frustration here on Team Aura as, you know, so far this season, 2 wins against amateur teams, 2 losses against pro teams. They would love to finally take one here off of ROX, as that would be a big confidence booster and, you know, a big boon on their path towards reaching that postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I mean, they were looking to try to make that upset happen against both Liiv SANDBOX and KWANGDONG FREECS. It did not come through, and so they say, okay, well, back to the pro team punching bag of Seongnam ROX. Let's see if we can do that. And now Aura, they did win the coin flip, so they take speed priority, and they'll be taking us first right to WKC Singapore Circuit.
Yeah, Singapore Circuit here in track #1, followed by Terracotta Twisters, track #2, Mine Winding Slopes, Glacier Extreme Stadium, and Forest Zigzag Timberland. And I gotta say, Will, if this one goes to track 5, I think this might be my favorite 5-track set that we've gotten so far, or at least that I've casted here at KDL Preseason 2. I mean, Terracotta Twister, Winding Slopes, Extreme Stadium, and Zigzag Timberlands especially. Very hard technical tracks, very difficult. And I mean, these are 2 teams that are at the top of their game when it comes to team speed. So I'm excited to see them kind of flex their muscles here on some of the more challenging tracks that we have to offer at KDL.
Yeah, absolutely. And both teams, they are actually very focused on trying to get even the 1-2 just to secure every track, right? I mean, they have the roster to support that strategy. So curious to see how that works out. I am glad to see that Aura picks up Singapore right away. That's a track that they've seemed to favor here and there. And also one that, you know, ROX doesn't seem as confident in. A lot of the WKC tracks, basically. ROX definitely likes to focus on those technical, difficult tracks, especially with the racers like Ding and John, but we'll see how it starts out tonight in round 1 of speed mode between these 2 teams. It is going to be Seongnam versus Aura on WKC Singapore Circuit. And the race begins between Seongnam ROX and Aura. Here on Singapore Circuit, we do have Aura Hero currently holding the record with 2.06.
Yeah, Spell and Ding off to a fantastic start. Battling with Hero right now. I want to keep our eyes on Ding and Hero over the course of this team speed match. I feel like we're going to see them butting head-to-head. Keep in mind, for you watching at home, this is the rank 1 and the rank 2 racers here in team speed. So a lot of contention, a lot of pride on the line, and 2 of the best in the business to do it.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, again, we have both ROX and Aura sending 2 racers up ahead, trying to vie for that 1-2 spot if possible. Right behind them, it's Dutzy and C's trying to provide support in the middle part of the pack.
Yeah, Nitro Gain seems a little bit better right now for Team Aura, so we'll see if they're able to use that to get some more meta up here at the front of the pack and lend some assistance here for Hero, who's battling hard in that 1v1 spot for rank 1 with Ding. Ding not really giving up any ground right now as we see C's trying to take a line to potentially, you know, cause some problems here for Spell, but as of yet, not able to find it.
Yeah, and Ding's actually just going to try to avoid it, try to make sure that he's lined up for the turn coming up as they go into lap 2, and that allows him to keep a hold of that rank 1 spot, and he is individually still trying to stay ahead of Hero in both team and individual boosts, right? And a lot of that comes from JJONG and Ditsy trying to provide a lot of that team boost from behind.
Yeah, some nice body blocking there by Spell, but Nock and Caesar are both able to slip through, and actually Spell with a nice boost right there, able to sweep yet again, coming back to reinforce the flank here behind Ding, but behind all this action, all this sweeping, Hero has supplanted Ding for the first place position, so Aura's looking in a commanding spot.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's really up to Ding, right? This is one of those tracks, a lot of the WKC tracks, you don't have too many opportunities for players like JJONG to suddenly shoot forward. And so if Aura starts to really avoid giving the draft timings, Ding has to hold on to this #1 spot.
Yeah, Ding right now, he's got it, but Hero with a wide line, able to pass him yet again as we enter the latter portion of lap number 2. Ding is going to try and find some way to pass him, but oh, a nice collision there by Hero. Bouncing off the wall, colliding there with Ding, will push him all the way to the back, and Aura is going to deliver another 1-2 finish. Hero and Nock on the top.
Yeah, and again, I mean, if you give Hero that chance and have someone to back up, one of the reasons Hero was able to play a little bit aggressively in that last turn is, worst case, you still have Nock right behind you. You still have the point lead, right? So you get the call that, okay, well, ROX currently sitting at 6th, 7th, and 8th place. As long as we don't give Ding first place and, you know, maybe somehow allow everyone else to catch up, we should be okay. You get that call, Hero says, okay, well, let's just try to solidify this. I'll block. Worst case, Nock, you take the inner line and take over first place. Hero actually successfully stops and is able to clock in at the 1-2 position here for Aura.
Yeah, that was a fun 1v1 battle for the majority of that track there between Hero and Ding, as I expect to see a lot more of that to come. But, you know, at the end of the day, it did feel like Aura just had more support there for Hero than ROX did.
Yeah,
Ding.
Yeah, no, I think a big part of that, again, is JJONG is the type of player who can provide so much support for Ding, both in terms of just placement and a little bit of that aggressive play that he often does, even though he's not a designated sweeper. However, that's when you're on these tracks that have the technicalities, that have the difficult turns, where JJONG is able to kind of really perfect his technique to overtake, not the type of field tracks that we have.
Yeah, but now we're moving to one of those more technical tracks. We're going to go to Terracotta Twister for track number 2. Let's get to it. And off we go again, ROX versus Aura. Aura with a 1-0 lead right now heading into Terracotta Twister. Let's see if they can repeat that 1-2 finish they had in track number 1, as that has really been their bread and butter so far here in Team Speed.
Yeah, after that first round that we just saw on WKC's Singapore circuit, I am curious if Aura specifically has a plan to try to block out JJONG, right? Maybe try to tie him up so that he can't provide the support. Or was that just kind of the nature of the track, not a track that JJONG can shine in?
Yeah, we'll have to see. For now, I mean, JJONG has been controlled. Seas is right ahead of him here in 5th place. JJONG right now in 6th, so a little bit further back than he would like to be as we enter the inner tomb portion of Terracotta Twister. Everyone taking, you know, quite conservative lines, in fact, not too aggressive. Actually, Ding, no, was too aggressive, in fact.
Yeah.
I jinxed it, man. He falls down there, takes too tight the line. One more player from Aura also did fall, so it's a bit of tit for tat, but ROX losing Ding and having him fall all the way down to 7th place takes a lot of the wind out of their sails.
And you can tell JJONG just suddenly decides, okay, well, now it's up to me, right? The way that he's playing, and he is really good, even in these 1v2s. Once he has a placement in the podium finishes, this is where he starts to shine. He's got the support of Dutzy right behind him as well.
Yeah, Dutzy doing some nice sweeping right there on Luning as JJONG continues to battle out now with Nock here for the rank 1 position. You see JJONG, he's just trying to find a draft, trying to find a line where he can supplant Nock and get that first place spot, but Luning coming back in the New York City tour bus might be able to cause some problems.
Yeah, now the most important thing is C is currently locked in at 8th place for Aura, so Seongnam ROX, they have a couple options if JJONG and Dutzy can try to get a point lead here in the top 4.
Yeah, once again, going through these very precarious turns. As Dutzy actually spins out a little bit there, loses quite a bit of momentum, did not fall off the track, so he will at least retain 6th place, but now with only 500 meters left to go, JJONG, he has to hold on to this first place. It all comes down to this.
Yeah, if he can do that, and if Spell can just try to eke into 3rd, can he do it? Oh, no, it's going to be Dutzy and Ding helping solidify it as well.
Wow.
The first place secured by JJONG. What heroics from JJONG, and this is where he shines, right? When your team is in trouble, if he's in the middle of the pack, he can shoot forward. If he just has to block off a little bit, he can be that chaotic force in the middle of the pack, and ROX will be able to take that round 2.
Yeah, in a very precarious fashion, too. I mean, if one thing didn't go right for them, that 1-point lead, 1-4-6-7. If one more racer is one position back, everything falls apart. So some nice cohesion there from ROX, and keep in mind, that was after Ding had that rare blunder on lap number 1, coming through the inner portion of Terracotta Twister, where he fell off the track. He fell all the way back into 7th place, and you know, ROX, even without the team speed god so far here in KDL Preseason 2, performing up to his standard, we're still able to tie it up 1-1.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Although it was because of Ding that they got into trouble and then JJONG had to hold on to first, because Ding just recovered enough to get back into 7th place instead of 8th, that's how they were able to secure that 1-point lead. If he was sitting in 8th at the end of that track, they would not have been able to take that win. So props to the entire squad, like you said, State, of Seongnam ROX. Looks like we got a replay here. This is the first part of the lap where Ding, he just tries to cut across a little bit too close, right over the edge of that corner, and he just falls right to his death.
Yeah, C's fell right behind him too. And here on lap number 2, we see actually Ding with another bad collision, but was still able to make it his way up to 7th place. So,
and you can see C's, he's just trying to block him out. He knows that's how they win, and Ding finds, you know, after that collision, that C's is losing a little bit of speed. Ding gets that draft, takes the inner, and he's barely able to brush on by before getting bumped into the wall, and he's able to cross the finish line in 7th place.
I actually didn't even catch that second collision there with Ding in the inner portion of Terracotta Twister again. So despite both of those blunders, being able to retain 7th place and deliver the win for ROX, definitely coming through when it matters most as well. I think we're getting ready to go to track number 3, all tied up 1-1 now. The best of 5 is the best of 3 as we move to Mine Winding Slopes.
Kicking things off here on Winding Slopes, another track where Aura holds the current record for team speed. It's held by C's. See if he can repeat that performance once again.
Yeah, right now Aura off to a great start. Knock once again up here in the top ranks, but with Dutzy and JJONG and also Ding all battling it out, this is a bit of a scary position here for Aura, although they hold on to the point lead right now, because that's a lot of ROX's top talent near the first place position.
Oh, and Ding's in a position where he could cause some chaos. He's actually just going to avoid any potential collisions. He doesn't want to risk it. Goes a little bit wider on that jump. Make sure he saves himself along with his teammates.
Knock went for a very aggressive sweep there. Man, some fantastic sweeping by Knock. Look at this maneuverability as he just continuously blocked player after player after player and was still able to retain 3rd place.
Yeah, meanwhile, C's actually was trying to recover off of that speed that Knock was trying to hold off the entire forces of, you know, including his own teammates. So C's falls all the way back down to 8th, but currently Luning still in 1st place. That's allowing Aura to stay just ahead in the point standings.
Yeah, Dutzy's going to try his best to battle it out and pass Luning here, but Luning with some nice body checks. It is really hard. No, Dutzy actually went for the 360, was not able to find the angle to get past Luning, but a rare mistake there. They collide with the wall, and that's going to be Dutzy and Ding breaking away.
Yeah, Nox just barely on the tail, but it's not enough. He can't force the pressure against Ding, and it's a 1-2 finish. And man, you got to feel for Luning. He got the first block off the spin turn, but he tries to block again. And, you know, we just see Dutzy say, okay, well, goodbye. Like, I'm not going to actually collide into you this time. I'm not going to continue the spin turn. It looked like, based on the build that we saw the adjustment from Luning, that he thought the spin turn would continue from Dutzy to try to maintain that momentum. And Dutzy just says, no, I'll just boost right on by.
Yeah, that would have been a heroic play there for Luning if he was able to pull it off. It's actually ROX not only taking the win, but also taking the track record here with Dutzy at 1.17 as they deliver a 1-2 finish. And, you know, Ding, we're hyping him up coming into this match. In track 1 and track 2, he wasn't quite able to deliver, but now back in the top 2.
Yeah, and that's how you know that Seongnam ROX has definitely grown, is that they don't need one of their star players to always have to get that top finish, right? It doesn't have to be JJONG, it doesn't have to be Ding. If one of them falters, then you still got your other players in Dutzy and Spell who can provide, you know, just the stability you need, or maybe even that first place to clutch it up. We'll see if they can continue it again on their pick this time as we get into round 4. Will Seongnam ROX close out speed mode as we go into Glacier Extreme Stadium?
Match point here for ROX versus Aura, as ROX only needs to win one of the next 2 tracks to secure the speed mode victory. And Well, they're already off to a great start. Ding and JJONG, the best two racers on this team, already in first and second place.
Yeah, we're just seeing some interesting stats here. The fact that Hero hasn't needed a single draft recently in his last match on Extreme Stadium, right? He just shot into first place and was able to keep it. That just tells us once he's in position, he's not going to let it go. But currently, he is going to need a couple of those drafts if he wants to try to shoot ahead.
Yeah, there's some nice sweeping coming out of Ditzy and Spell, trying to slow him down. They know what a threat he can be if he can work his way back up into first place. And so just trying to provide some breathing room are those lower ranking ROX players just to let JJONG and Ding do their thing.
Yeah, now JJONG and Ding, if they can hold on to just this double team in the podium finishes, it's going to be good. But Nock, right now, he's just going to try to play it safe, right? He just wants to make sure he's in position so that when Hero catches up, they can try to make a team play.
Yeah, waiting for the cavalry to come in right now is Nock, as Ding, the lap number 1, is able to retain that first place position. Now Hero, you called it, man. He's coming up hot on the tail of JJONG, trying to do a little bit of a collision there.
Yeah, and JJONG just closes him out. Ding also having a good defense against Nock. Now JJONG, after some defense, he's back to provide support, but Hero's hot on his tail. And we can see Hero's trying to go for a lot of these stutter drifts just to try to maintain his boost gauge while keeping up the acceleration, and it's working out.
Yeah, the body checks have also been fantastic here for Hero, as JJONG finally able to break through into third place. As we enter the tricky portion here, the hairpin turns yet again. Nock right now in first place. Will he be able to retain it? Feels like ROX has their full strength behind him.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2, 3, 4 for ROX, and even if they get first place, it's just cherry on top. Ding does not have to take any risks here. It's really up to Nock. The ball's in his court. He doesn't go for a stop. He does try to go for a little bit of a block, but it's not going to be nearly enough. Another 1-2 finish for JJONG and Ding here for Seongnam ROX.
Yeah, ROX's star racers coming through in the clutch there. JJONG and Ding delivering a 1-2 finish. And that has been their modus operandi, it feels like, throughout all of KDL Preseason 2. Many of their wins here at Team Speed have been when they have, you know, either Ding or JJONG or both of them up there getting the 1-2 finish. And that's going to be a 3-1 win here for ROX in speed mode.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is that while the track draft, I think, could have gone either way, it's just, I mean, picking up something like Winding Slopes, right, and then allowing, you know, some of these more difficult tracks to still continue to live on against a team like ROX, where you never know when that wild card's going to suddenly shoot forward, right, in either JJONG or Ding or Ditzy. Any one of those three spells probably the most, like, kind of consistent role here for Seongnam ROX. So, you know, Ara took a chance, but they weren't able to come out on top. However, now all eyes go over to item mode.
Yeah, item mode as the aces will come out, try and lend some support here. You see Take getting swapped in here for Team Aura. Hero is out as the Noctec duo will try to, you know, live up to the reputation that they have earned over years and years of Kart Rider, both in Kart Rider League and here in the KDL Preseason 1. But as of yet, Aura, they have not really been meeting expectations here, as you know, it feels like all of the teams, or almost all of the teams that excelled in the meta of item mode in KDL Preseason 1 right now are kind of struggling a bit to adjust to the much more varied strategies in KDL Preseason 2. But ROX Esports, it's kind of the same story for them. They are certainly doing better here in item mode in KDL Preseason 2, but historically they haven't been able to match up well against ROX, or against Aura, excuse me. So we'll see if Aura is able to continue to deliver.
Yeah, I think the biggest question has been that Tech used to always be known for how good he is with the water bombs, and that is a big part of the current meta. However, that's why a lot of people thought, okay, well, Aura's going to be even stronger now, and it's actually been the reverse, like you said, State. We'll see if they're able to flip that here with the track selection. Of course, Seongnam ROX, they lost the coin flip, so they have first pick here in item mode, and they're going to kick things off over on Factory Cogwheel Crush.
Yeah, Sphinx's Riddle, London Night, Mushroom Caves, and Motherlode will round out the set should we go all the way to a track number 5. And Cogwheel Crush, a really fun one to start things off here. A lot of varied strategies, especially with this new, more aggressive meta with the higher proc rates on these aggressive items that can drop now. You know, the nerf of things like Angel Shield really coming into play a lot here so far in KDL Preseason 2 is, you know, over the past couple of weeks, I feel like we're starting to get to the point where these teams are kind of figuring out the meta on specific maps, but it doesn't feel like it's iron tight yet. So I'm curious to see what these teams have in store for us here in item mode as we're getting ready to kick it off. Will, we're going to item mode, ROX versus Aura on Factory Cogwheel Crush.
And we begin on ROX's choice here of Cogwheel Crush. It's a 2-lapper. We'll see kind of what ideas both teams seem to have. Okay, just a strong holdback coming in from Aura, just making sure they can keep up the tempo with that early water bomb.
That was a really nice water bomb. And oh, I'm loving this UI that we have here in the bottom left, actually able to see exactly how the attacks come in. Have I been blind this whole time, or is this new?
No, this was in the patch starting at Preseason 2, before Preseason 2.
I can't believe I never noticed this.
Yes,
oh my goodness.
This is, of course, if you guys have been playing on the live as well, it came through after Preseason 1 ended. So we have the log, the battle log basically coming in for the attacks and defenses as well. So you'll really notice if there's any of those clutch EMPs or even the shields and angels. As we see, again, just a lot of water bombs for the players behind, but they are in decent position, so they're going to just try to find the right timing here, whether it's right before or after the shortcut.
I'm actually flabbergasted that I missed the battle log. Luning tried to take that shortcut, but was just a hair late. He's going to have to join everybody else here on the shorter path right now. JJONG with a little bit of a breakaway, but, you know, sees right there where that magnet will be able to equalize it, as that truly is the great equalizer should you be able to connect.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of teams, if you're able to get one lightning, try to save up for a double, right? See if it comes through, because that's just so strong. Now, however, JJONG does have double shields, so you're going to have to constantly throw out some other attacks to start to bait out a lot of those shields, and he'll be able to replenish those as well because he's in first place.
Yeah, looking at the lower standings right now, a lot of magnets and nitrous is both getting stacked up and not really being rotated out except for some aggressive items here and there. So there's a lot of finishing potential for both teams across pretty much the whole roster.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. ROX's arsenal has been very solid so far. JJONG constantly swapping between shields and EMPs. He's going to start to negate a lot of those magnets as well, and sees it's really just a lightning bolt that he's holding on to and a couple boosts on both teams, but is that going to be enough? JJONG enters the shortcut as well.
Yeah, he's in the shortcut. He has double shields. Tech, though, he does have a magnet, so watch to see him pop that out if he can. Magnet does get connected. Tech is going to be on the high ground, but he gets slowed down so many attacks.
Oh, and Luning barely still crosses over, though, thankfully for Aura. I love what JJONG does, right? He gets hit by the UFO early, he drops down, and just says, okay, I know the magnet's being used on me, I'll try to draw them backwards. However, at the end of the day, just one extra boost here overall on the side of Aura, and Luning will barely inch forward to cross the finish line first.
Yeah, for a second there, I really thought ROX was going to be able to close it out, but Luning coming through on the outside, just a fraction of a second ahead of Dutzy, and that's going to be item mode track number 1 going to Luning here on Cogwheel Crush. That was one of the more wild endings that we've had. It felt like both teams really had fully stacked inventories there. There was so much happening, so many attacks, all these magnets popping. We had nitrous in the bag, crazy stuff.
Yeah, what I'm really starting to see overall, like you said, sure, per track we're seeing different interpretations of the overall meta. However, one thing we're seeing develop is that tempo is the king, right? So a lot of them will start to dump their utility and item a little bit earlier. So Dutzy thinks he has the opening here. They're able to Angel Shield that, the Magnet and the boost. He thinks he can move forward, but the UFO barely slows him down enough. I didn't catch that right at the end. And that gives way for Luning to just barely cross over first.
Yeah, that Luning, or that UFO proccing just in time to give Luning the space he needs to cross in first and deliver a win there for Aura, as they're now up 1-0 here in item mode. As we move on to track number 2, it'll be Desert Sphinx's Riddle. Off we go. Let's see if Aura can continue to build on this lead here in item mode and potentially continue us on the path towards an ace match.
Yeah, I mean, this was their selection, so we'll see what the idea is. Just having to hang back, make sure they can stay ahead in that tempo, try to get more of those attacking items, and a little bit of an answer back towards Knock as well.
Yeah, so many missiles coming out right now. JJONG and Dutzy especially just getting absolutely blasted, as a little bit tit for tat as Water Wisp does connect there with an Aura player. And now we see Tech and Ding trying to break away a little bit here. Tech doesn't have too much. I mean, I was going to say he doesn't have much speed utility here in the bag, but really neither does Ding for a second. They're just holding on to 2 bananas.
Yeah, not much to work with for Ding. I think right now it seems like ROX just says, okay, well, Ding, you're pretty far ahead, so just try to keep that standing, defend it, try to bait out a lot of these other attacks so we can force Aura to cycle through, not be able to hold on to something like that Lightning. Tech's been holding on to that ever since the middle of lap 1, and it looks like once again Aura says, we want at least one Lightning in the bag, see if we can get a double.
And Ding has actually gotten 4 shields in a row, so he's been really able to soak up a lot of this aggro coming in. Unfortunately, twice also water balloons have connected with him, so that's going to be Ding falling all the way back to 8th place, but he did a good job of, eating up the aggro there from Aura for a long time for his teammates.
Yeah, absolutely. And now an Angel Shield in the bag for Dudzi as well, so probably something they'll save up for that one Lightning. And this now signifies to Aura, okay, well, we're going to need something extra, right? Either we need a lot more missiles or wisps instantly to try to bait out that Angel Shield first, or hopefully for Aura, another Lightning Bolt.
And we'll see exactly what the plan is going to be right now, as Take is the only player here on Aura holding on to a Lightning Bolt. Oftentimes we do see teams try to stack those up to 2, possibly even 3, heading in towards that finish line. As now here on lap number 3, we start to see the item list start to really fill out. And, once again, similar to track number 1, a lot of nitrous and a lot of magnets all in the bag.
Yeah, and JJONG currently, he's just trying to avoid any of that action, right? He's still got an EMP on his own as well. You still got an Angel Shield from Dudzi. ROX overall not sitting too bad here on the defensive items that they would want.
I think they actually only have the Angel Shield right now with only 400 meters left to go, so it's going to have to be a clutch one. But a lot of speed here as the UFO will come in on Clancy, slows him down. Nock and Luning are racing, but JJONG just barely fast enough on the left side as ROX, although they didn't really have a lot of attacking or defensive utility, they had so much speed in their inventory. It felt like every player had a nitrous or a magnet or both, and I mean, there were just too many bodies for Aura to handle. ROX had such a strong midfield that they were just able to swarm the goalpost there, tie us up 1-1.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like Aura, once again, the idea was the same, right? Try to just force all of these attacks on whoever is in the lead for ROX, and even if it's kind of just them acting as, aggro, you're positioning Luning to be whoever has that nitrous, whoever has that boost, to be able to cross the finish line first. However, you just weren't really accounting for the fact that there was one extra attack coming in from ROX alongside the boost, of course, for Dudzi. And so it's going to be ROX crossing that finish line first, tying us up 1-1.
And so far, Seongnam ROX versus Aura has really delivered. We knew coming into this one that this would be a very hotly contested match, both in speed and in item. And here we are, once again, in item mode, tied up 1-1. We started speed 1-1. We'll see if ROX can fight back here in track number 3 and get closer and closer to closing this thing out as we get a bit of a recap here. Lap number 1. These are all the water balloons coming in as...
Yeah, we saw so many double water balloons. Yeah, and you see him, he's constantly using it that way because that way you bait out the shield but still make sure you target him, right? So he's getting hit no matter what, and you're forcing him basically to waste that shield. You can still replenish your item boxes. So I like that idea coming in from Aura.
I think we actually saw later in the track too, some shields not getting popped to defend against water balloons because they were anticipating them being doubles yet again. So a little bit of mind games coming in on both sides as we get ready to move to track number 3. All tied up 1-1 right now as we move on to World Tour London night.
Seongnam ROX trying to repeat what they did in speed mode. Of course, after the 1-1 tie, they were able to close things out 3-1. Can they do the same here on World Tour London night?
We'll see. As World Tour London night has been kind of a tricky map here in this meta, the way that the finish line closes out with the bridge, with the obstacle, as we see right here, and also the Ferris wheel, and then that tight corner. It can be hard to aim a lot of these aggressive items that players usually have at their disposal. And so far, at least in the games that I've been casting, we've had a lot of surprise finishes. So I'm very curious to see exactly what both teams cook up here coming in towards the finish line, as it feels like, as far as the map pool goes here at Team Item, this is one of the ones that maybe has the least figured out meta across the teams.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we saw yesterday to account for what you just mentioned in terms of trying to accurately attack in the last lap was, using things like the magnet or, even a UFO potentially if you have it, to slow them down to make sure that you're hitting something like the water bomb or even giving time for the wisp to catch up. And so we'll see if that is part of the idea here as Tech just gets a nice little bump off of the drawbridge. We're already seeing, again, magnets, they're still strong, right? If you're not seeing EMPs being saved up on the other side, you're still going to see that magnet to full effect.
Yeah, especially in the mid game, if one player is just trying to break away a little bit like Clancy is right here, you know, say Luning or Knock is able to get in a range and pop that magnet, that can just very quickly equalize any lead that Luning was able to gain.
Yeah, and one thing I just noticed, JJONG, he's holding on to the double magnets. He didn't use it to refresh on those items, so curious to see what the idea is there. He will be able to really throw a wrench into Aura's plans if they're not careful.
Yeah, we actually have the exact same thing coming out of Knock right now, also not rotating through these items, so a little bit of a curious idea here as both these players work lower in the rankings here as we get closer and closer to that finish line. Only 600 meters away now, Will.
Oh, and that shield is going to be huge on Dutzy, but it's not going to be enough just yet. But JJONG does shoot forward with the first magnet. He gets held back, and the lightning hits. No angel available. Aura's been saving that one up for the entire final lap, and it comes in handy as they secure the finish line and lead 2-1.
That Thunderbolt was so clutch for Aura as well because Plansy, right as he came into that final straightaway, he had a Nitro in the back. He was saving it for that last moment, but right when he wanted to pop it, that's when he got hit by the Lightning Bolt, and that took all the wind out of their sails as Aura brings us one track win away from forcing an ace match now.
Yeah, here's the thing is that one thing we noticed again yesterday as well, I think we'll continue to notice this, especially if you have more than one, but even when you have one, sure, it slows him down, but it also makes you miss that timing on the items, right? If that lightning strikes you, you basically get stuck with that shock for a brief second, and that can really mess up your timings. Maybe you don't get the targeting right on something like the magnet or a missile, and so Aura once again holding on to that lightning. That's been their MO the entire day, at least have one as an insurance plan, and this time around it works out perfectly. See the timing here from Luning.
Yeah, just look at this. He has the Nitro right here, but he gets zapped, man. And if that doesn't happen, maybe he is able to overtake C's there in that final moment, as oftentimes here in item mode now, we do have a lot of players, or at least some players on each team, really maximizing the boost on their cards for that Hail Mary finish. But this time, ROX not able to deliver some nice item usage out of Aura as, no, it's match point.
Yeah, we'll see if they can close things out. Maybe bring us to an ace match state as we get ready for round 4 here on item mode. We are going to go to Aura's pick on Forest Mushroom Caves.
Off we go on Forest Mushroom Caves, or just one track win away from forcing that ace match that I know I would love to see, and many fans watching at home would love to see, as these teams have really been putting on a show today.
Yeah, and both teams, they have a couple options now to send out on the ace match, so curious to see who might be coming out as a representative, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Seongnam ROX, they still have a chance to try to catch back up and close things out 2-0.
Yeah, just 2 tracks away from them and closing this one out 2-0. As that was a nice water bomb, actually, connecting a number of players right there. As JJONG, he is trying to break away. I do see Tech hitting him with a couple of missiles there, and that will equalize things a bit as the field here at the top of the ranks is quite dense. We don't really have any one racer getting a lot of distance ahead of their opponents.
Yeah, no one getting too far ahead, and a lot of it, I think, because of the racers just want to hang back, try to refresh their items, right? If it's clumped up, they've been slowing down, lining up their water bombs, things like that. ROX, whether for better or worse, they've been getting a lot of these double angel shields and EMPs. The EMPs will be cycled through a little bit faster, but JJONG seems to think, okay, the lightning bolts have been coming in every time. They're still holding on to one, as we can see right now, once again for Aura. So let's try to keep at least one of those angel shields ready to go for the later part of the race.
Yeah, he's got an EMP as well, and I would be very surprised if he cycled that one out here in lap number 2, as might be playing a little bit more of a supporting role here. Ding also right now with Nitrous and an EMP, so a lot of options here on Team ROX, and that actually will give Dutzy the freedom to rotate that one item out.
Yeah, and he's just going to be able to try to get an attack here with the water bomb. However, he can't fall back to try to aim that, so he's just going to throw it out, maybe bait out that shield, and that is accurate. The boost coming through. Will Ding be able to find the angle for it? He wants to try to cycle through.
Yeah, he wants to try to cycle through. Angel Shield does pop. 100 meters left to go. Keep in mind that there were magnets, but not going to be enough, as ROX is going to tie it up 2-2. Actually with a 1-2-3 finish, so a very safe one there for ROX. As of course you're in item mode. It's all about whichever racer crosses the finish line first. But I mean, for ROX with Dutzy, Plansy, and Ding all coming through there ahead of the players on Aura, I mean, that was a nice win for them. Very solid.
Yeah, and again, it's all off the back of that Angel Shield, right? They start to get the read that, okay, Aura's always going to save at least one Lightning. You know, maybe they stack more than one, and then we'll have to adjust what our game plan is. But at least one of us should hold on to this Angel Shield no matter how early you get it. JJONG actually got the double in the middle of the first lap. He cycles through one as they enter lap 2 for tempo, but he holds on to the last one, times it right for the Lightning Bolt. And quite frankly, for Aura, one thing that doesn't work out is that while they had the Lightning Bolt as that insurance, they weren't able to cycle through for any other targeted attacks like the Wisp, like the missiles. So while they had a couple good water bombs, it was not enough to slow down Seongnam ROX.
Yeah, some magnets in the inventory too, but I never saw any of them really come to fruition right there at the final moment. So ROX just with a solid win, and we're going to go to a final track here in item mode. If Aura wins, we are going to an ace match. If ROX win, it will be a clean 2-0 sweep as we move on to Mind Motherload.
Both teams, Seongnam ROX and Aura, looking for that extra win. Seongnam ROX trying to solidify themselves in the top 3, and Aura currently in danger of getting shoved out of that top 4 ranking. They desperately want this to go to an ace match.
Yeah, Aura really wants to win this one. Not only this track, but the ace match. It's try to stay ahead of Sensation as they are neck and neck. I mean, coming into today, it was a 1-round differential between them as a tiebreaker there for positions 4 and positions 5, and that is the cutoff for the playoffs. So the pressure is on here for Aura to continue to deliver, and here in item mode so far, they have been doing it, but ROX showing a lot of life.
Now here's the thing, Nock, he gets that Lightning Bolt again early. This is a 3-lapper. It looks like his game plan is still to hold on to that, but you have to start to think, if you're holding on to that the entire time, you're not creating as many other opportunities to cycle out, right? So there is a bit of a numbers game here that Aura needs to think about, because if you can't stack the Lightnings, how much is it really going to be worth when ROX starts to stack these shields?
Yeah, especially there in 8th place. I mean, you would love Nock to slow down and try and double up on the items here as he's coming through in lap number 2, and you know, he finally does work his way up the ranks a little bit there. Still holding on that Lightning, but you're right. I mean, that is one less item that you can't hold on to, and it seems like he's just going to commit to it this whole race.
Yeah, and looks like he's just going to use the boost to try to get ahead. At least that way he can cycle through, get some of his own shields, try to draw out that aggro, see if that pays off for Aura as we near the end of lap 2. Ding just taking the wider route to cycle through his items. The water bomb's going to be good against Nock. And Nock, once again, he's even going to get denied some of these item opportunities at all.
Yeah, he got hit by a rocket as well, so that's a lot of aggro there coming on Nock. He falls all the way down into 8th place, just pure support coming from him, as he would love to try and get, you know, maybe an Angel Shield or something else to help his teammates out, as he's still holding on to that Thunderbolt.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, it's going to come in handy. Both teams got an Angel Shield, so if Aura can have a couple of the targeted attacks, they should have an opening here for the Lightning Bolt. Meanwhile, that means without a lot of EMPs on either side, the magnets might be what really helps one of the players cross the finish line first.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Ding right now with double nitrous. He does pop one to try and take this shortcut, as he's going to be probably the lead racer here for ROX coming down this stretch.
Luning and C's also near that podium finish. C's does have an extra magnet should someone try to shoot ahead. The Lightning Bolt still in the hand of Aura as well. It's going to try to slow down JJONG. JJONG shields against it, and now it's up to them, but JJONG's trying to body block against Luning. He's still doing a great job, and he's able to secure the first place. They both took the narrow ramp up, and JJONG says, well, welcome to my track. We will be moving on with yet another win in 2-0 fashion against Aura.
Man, I actually cannot believe that ROX walked away with a victory on that one. I was looking at the inventories there, the final stretch, and I think their last 3 players had nothing in the bag. It was all on JJONG there to come through in the clutch, come through those defensive items, and just barely cross that finish line. He was able to do it. So ROX with a clean 2-0 win. We will not have an ace match today. Aura, although this will be a defeat, it was a close one. It was 3-1 in speed, 3-2 here in items. So in terms of, you know, round differential, it's not going to hurt them that bad, especially against a pro team here like ROX. But the path for Team Aura to reaching the postseason becomes a little bit more precarious now, because Sensation firmly ahead of them in 4th place.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that now that you have all the pro teams out of the way, Aura has no more excuses, right? You have to win all of your remaining matches, and even then, it may not even be entirely in your own hands. Maybe you have to rely on Sensation losing a couple of theirs as well. So Aura, they're not in the spot that a lot of people expected them to be. A lot of people thought, okay, they had such a strong showing in Preseason 1, they're probably a shoo-in for top 4. The top 4 probably will not change. here in Preseason 2, but we have been gifted a surprise as Aura, they just haven't been able to get a good pulse on the new item meta. Meanwhile, ROX, they look stronger in both speed and item mode this time around.
Yeah, the item mode really hurting Aura here in KDL Preseason 2 is, you know, the addition of Luning now as their speed ace, the former Reboot hybrid player coming in for Team Aura, has made them a much more formidable opponent here in speed, but speed is only half of the sets that you play here in KDL Preseason. Item mode matters a lot, and so far the new meta just really hasn't been going their way. They were able to make a very close show of it here, 3-2 in item mode, just one track win away from forcing that ace match, but at the end of the day, Seongnam ROX delivering yet another 2-0 clean win.
Yeah, they're looking strong, right? And they're now up there 4-0 win-loss record alongside Liiv, SANDBOX, and Kwangdong FREECS. Of course, those two teams will be playing next. And Seongnam ROX, they're kind of putting in their own bid to say we're coming for the top 2 spots here in the overall team standings.
Yeah, and as far as teams go, actually, Seongnam ROX, I didn't realize this coming into today, but they have the highest round win rate by a considerable margin here in KDL Preseason 2 for item mode specifically. So to be able to come in and defeat Aura, who in KDL Preseason 1 was one of the most impressive item mode teams that we had on the field, is very impressive stuff. ROX looking so strong so far, and I would not be surprised to see them make a play to go all the way to the finals.
Yeah, I would not be surprised either. I mean, of course, we always knew, some of the individual power that they had, but again, in Preseason 1, it was always like, well, you got to rely on the ace match. How good can that be? You kind of have to make sure you get the speed match, because if you lose that, you don't even get to the ace. And this time around, they say, okay, even in team speed, we've got other players we can rely on. Even in item mode, our game plan is better. We're understanding the meta better. And then worst case, we still have more than just JJONG to show up for the ace matches.
Yeah, it certainly feels like they're one of the most well-rounded team, if not the most well-rounded team here in KDL Preseason 2. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're the best, because like the FREECS, for example, trying to beat them in speed mode is like a David versus Goliath story for pretty much any team that we have here on the field. But I mean, ROX just looking so strong right now.
Yeah, ROX is looking, I think, very promising. And I think maybe even getting to that position that a lot of fans wanted to see them grow into after, the potential that we saw in Preseason 1. So overall, I mean, this is what you want to see in these preseasons, right? Is that, okay, well, is there hope for metas shifting? Is there hope for the standings to shift between the powerhouse teams and not? Teams like Aura, teams like Seongnam ROX, and even Sensation starting to say, okay, it's not just about Liiv, SANDBOX, and Kwangdong FREECS, right? We're still only in the preseason. Players are still improving. They're figuring out their own metas here in both speed and item. So can't wait to see what happens. But speaking of the powerhouse team state, we got another team match lined up for everyone at home tonight. It's going to be Liiv, SANDBOX versus Kwangdong FREECS, the rematch of the Preseason 1 finals. We'll be watching that when we come back from the short break.
Stopping me. Nobody stopping me. Nobody stopping me. nobody stopping me. Nobody stopping me.
돌아왔어! 또 날라올 수 있거든요!
이거 반만 제대로 나오면 스피어가 이거 힘들 때 만드나요? 아, 먼저 그냥 앞쪽 올라가서 강태 하나 맞아 들어가네요.
오히려 속도 붙여서 쫓아가려고 할 때 뒤쪽에서 끊는 게 더 효율적이다라고 판단하겠죠.
오긴 많이 왔는데 이 상황에서 세라핀 때문에 붙었고
그 일부러 살짝 붙여서 맞은 느낌이 있거든요.
피어는 물 해요? 물 묵직하고
자,
네.
그래서 사이드로 최대한 피했어요.
일단은 지금 공격형 아이템 하나로는 압도적으로 도망갈 수 있는 그림은 아니었기 때문에
와 2중 3중으로 묶었어요.
네. 아 해지는 있는데 지금 막을 게 많지는 않은 광동 프리스가 되겠습니다.
근데 쿨도 있고 뒤에 월드도 있고
오히려 세라핀 약간 스페셜 플레이가 나와 버렸거든요.
네.
이거 해지 보네요.
자, 이거 근데
아니.
우선은 월드가 보이긴 합니다.
아니 바나나 먹을 때가 아닌데 지금
자, 이거 마지막 역전 한
당겨도
방이니까요.
해지죠. 당겨도
스루피
해지죠.
자석 들어가요. 어이 스루피
야, 스루피 진짜 침착하네요. 이거 혼자 완전 적중을 뚫고 들어가서
네.
그냥 이거는 혼자서 사실 다 당할 만한 그림이었었는데 오히려 그냥 1대 다수를 이겨냈습니다. 그리고 이 트랙은 아무리 도망가려고 해도 도망을 갈 수 없는 트랙이거든요.
근데 가드가 물로 두 명을 잡아버리면서 약간 도망가고 있는데 페이지가 또 묶였고
물폭탄 한 방 뒤에서 보고 있어요.
근데 1등이 감속됐어요. 호준 선수가 살짝 감속됐거든요.
오늘 어이구네
뒤쪽에서 한번 끊어주긴 했습니다. 끊어주긴 했기 때문에 센세이션 선수들이 도망갈 수 있는 여건을 마련해 놨어요.
어이 물로 와서도
뭔가 이게 원래 불가능해야 되는데 가능할 것 같다라는 생각이 들지 몰라왔거든요. 그러니까 되게 재밌는 구성이죠.
네, 페이지가 방금 선두권 합류 못했으면 진짜 이대로 그냥 굳히기 들어가서 경기 터졌을 수도 있어요.
바나나 지금 바나나 들고 있는데 이 직접 바나나 살짝 피하면서 페이지 근데 이 바나나는 못 피했어요.
와, 그 심지어 가드가 조금 더 괴롭히죠.
그리고 이 과정에서 센세이션 선수들이 천사를 3개를 잘 확보를 해서 하나를 사용을 했기 때문에 후반부 싸움에서 방어하는 싸움에선 유리합니다.
그리고 기계 바나나도 먹었어요.
거대 톱니에서
바나나 또 먹어. 뭐 배 터지겠네요.
한사로 과다거든요. 이런
저러면 약간 문제가 생길 수
물건이 안
있어요.
나와요.
음식은 골고루 먹어야죠.
1대1 잡혀야 되거든요. 1대1 잡혀야 물건이 나옵니다.
이거 몬스터가 지금 빨리 판단해야 됩니다. 차라리 그렇죠.
하나요?
버리고 다음 거 봐야 돼요.
번개인데 천사로 상쇄.
자, 근데 1등 실드 하나 있는 상황에서 얼마큼 더 이번 아이템 중요하거든요. 앞에 보이긴 합니다.
아이 잡혔어요.
그러면 뒤쪽에서 물이 또 날라올 수 있거든요.
퍼센트.
거리 기가 막혔습니다.
이 트랙이 자르는 게 된다고요.
호전이 들어갑니다. 센세이션.
호준의 러너 역할 수행 능력 무시무시했지만 이번 경기에서는 센세이션 선수는 퍼센트 조커 가드가 뒤쪽에서 물폭탄 뚫어주는 게 너무 좋았습니다.
거대 톱니에서 이 트랙을 도망가는 거 거의 처음 보는 것 같습니다.
근데 어쨌든 이 둘 중에 하나 사라집니다. 지난 그 결승전 4위 멤버 그리고 당연히 결승전은 가는 것처럼 느껴지는 그 멤버 이 둘의 대결이에요.
그리고 평소 성향대로 위험 구간에서 싸움 안 겁니다. 살짝 속도 죽여가면서 위험한 구간 지나고 나서 이제 승부 걸겠다는 생각이죠.
그렇죠. 뭐 이거 동굴 구간 지나고 직선 구간 나왔을 때 그대 타이밍 본다던가 마지막 한 타이밍 더 보면 되기 때문에 양 선수가 오히려 과감하게 간다면 지민 쪽이죠. 그러니까 오히려 과감하면 지민 쪽이 더 가깝거든요.
그래서 좀 과감하게 스탑을 한번 해봤으면 녹이
근데
기둥 지나고 있죠. 지민?
녹이 사실 이런 플레이를 보여주는 스타일이 아니거든요.
다행인 건 녹이 부스터 두 개를 완성한 상태에서 스탑을 걸었고 빠르게 회복이 됐기 때문에 부스터 상황에서는 손해를 안 봤어요.
디랩이 약간 애매한 타이밍에 좀 나와서
이거 스피터도
우리
봐야겠는데요.
사이드 좋지 않았거든요. 과감하게
여기를 한번 돌아서
깔끔했어요. 하지만 지민에게 타이밍이 없지 않거든요.
지민 한 번 더.
드랩이
스탑 한 번 더 나올 수도 있고요.
지민
했어요.
지민 어때?
누가
지민.
우와.
진짜 재밌게 싸웠습니다. 평소에 서로에 대해서 잘 알고 있는 두 명이었을 것 같은데 녹도 최선을 다해서 막아주고 스피턴 과감하게 승부수도 뛰었고요.
그래서 한번 슬쩍 넘어가는데 싶었는데
네.
지민과의 마지막 승부에서 지민의 집중력이 여기서 뚫어냈습니다. 0.071초
번개 또 두 개?
또 왔어요.
랩에서
번개가 두 개가 있긴 하지만 웨이브가 지금 실드 리필을 잘 해가고 있는 상황이기 때문에 확실하게 속도를 줄일 수 있는 우주선 같은 아이템들이 좀
아니
필요하겠습니다.
플랜지 오늘 번개 엄청 많이 붙는데요.
런던 나이트에서 약간 빌려온 것 같기도 하고요.
어디서 이런 걸 땡겨 마이너스 통장이야? 우리 땡겼어요.
와, 세 개!
이거 왜 이래 마통이?
그래서 썼어요.
일단 뭐 계속해서 들고 있을 수는 없으니까 하나씩 소모를 시켜주는 상황이 굉장히 좋았죠. 그리고 어차피 이렇게 되면 하위권도 다시 상위권에 다 붙을 수 있거든요.
저 석번개 저거 어떻게 한 거예요?
이거 약간 지금 오히려 좀 침착하게 갔으면 어땠었을까 하는 생각이 들고 거리 차이가 멀리 나다 보면
번개 또 있어요.
네.
멀어지려고 하면은 번개가 지금 떨어지거든요.
이거 점프대 구간에 두 개를 연속으로 쓸 건지 아니면 하나 정도는 맨 마지막까지 아낄 건지 판단하겠죠.
상처가 없어요. 그래서 우주를 넣었는데 그래서 해치 바로 이어졌긴 했거든요.
바나나가 몸으로 막아요. 바나나 일단 몸으로 막았습니다만 뚫고 갑니다.
끝까지 일단 번개 두 개를 참았다가 최후의 순간에 넣을 생각인데 어차피 웨이브도
웨이브
실드가
앞에?
두 개거든요.
자 이렇게 되면은 아이템 상황 이제 방템이 없긴 해요. 이러면은
어떻게 하나 일단 두찌는 돌았어요. 이제 번개
이제부터
치기 잘하는데 천사 있었죠.
근데 이렇게 되면 하나 더.
번개 또 있어요. 그러면
근데 자석이면서요.
두찌 누구?
돌았어요.
플랜지.
치열합니다. 템비 이거는 런던 나이트부터 시작된 번개가 정말 끝없이 쏟아졌는데
예.
버틸 뻔했었거든요. 이거는
두 경기 앞서서 번개가 한 10번 나왔는데 다 락세스 꽂혔고 그 중에서 지금 플랜지가 거의 뭐 5점 정도가 아닌데 번개 주연이네. 엄청 뭐가 많아요. 독이 막아야 되는데 지금 아래에 있습니다.
네, 다른 트랙 같으면 콜이 스피어를 앞쪽으로 빼주고 본인이 2위, 3위에서 틀어맞겠지만 워낙에 코스가 좁은 트랙이기 때문에 주행을 선택을 했네요.
자, CG가 스피어의 그 벽을 한번 뚫어냈습니다. 하지만 여전히 순위는 광동이 또 괜찮습니다.
이문으로 들어가서 신재 선수 감독이 있을 줄 알았는데 오히려 뒤에 약간 라인 블로킹이 돼버렸고 앞쪽에서 1대1 싸움 해주면서 뒤가 올라오면 돼요. 뒤도 살짝
네.
스님 많이 꼬였네요.
이러면 콜이 한번 눌러주고 스피어가 접근하는 사이에 월드가 속도 더 붙여서 원투 완성하고 이런 그림이 나올 수 있겠습니다. 이거 뒤에서 공격하려는 거죠.
자, 쿠리 옆으로 한번 튕겼고.
나쁘지 않은 플레이였어요. 괜찮았는데 생각보다 타이권이 거리가 좀 있다는 거.
근데 CG가 지금 2명을 날린 셈이 됐습니다.
네, 맨 마지막까지 1위를 탈환할 수 없다면 스탑도 한번 생각해봐야
거의
됩니다.
다 진경기라고 봤는데 우선은 나쁘진 않거든요.
그 순위가 나쁘지 않거든. 1포인트 차 1포인트.
1, 4, 6, 8은 안 돼요. 2, 3, 5, 7 줍니다. 이러면
자, 어떻게 되나요? 이거 순위를 끌어올릴 수 있나요? 일단은 현재까지 1포인트 뒤지고 있는
3, 5,
아우라인데.
7
이러면 아우라.
히어로가 스탑을 하지 않고 주행을 끝까지 유지한 게 이유가 있었네요. 뒤에 오고 있는 녹을 믿고 있었습니다.
이거는 약간 예상치 못한 오히려 앞쪽에서 스탑을 할 거라고 생각을 하면서 너무 신경을 많이 쓰다가 약간 무너진 것이 아닌가 실수가 나온 것이 아닌가라는 생각이 드는 장면이었습니다.
Welcome back, everyone. We return with our second match of the night. It is another team match, and it's a bit of a banger as we get the rematch of the Preseason 1 finals, and quite frankly, a rivalry as old as time itself in Kart Rider between Liiv SANDBOX and the Guangdong Freaks. First on stage, it will be Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, this is going to be a star-studded match, man. A preview of the postseason, perhaps even the postseason finals of KDL Preseason 2 yet again, is these teams, even with Liiv SANDBOX completely retooled here after losing 2 players to military service following Preseason 1, they're looking as strong as ever. Neil, JiMin, Byungsu, Hyunsu, and Dalda now adding in the item ace. They've been looking like rock stars up there on stage, and one of these undefeated teams will be defeated, exiting today as the Kwangdong Freaks now entering the stage, the reigning champs.
Yeah, and of course, one of the unique parts about this team is they just have the 4 racers. Just 4, no swap out for item mode. Obviously, the biggest strength is speed mode, but they're also not necessarily weak in item mode. It's just that they don't have a given expert, but all 4 players to comms. The team were definitely still there for this squad of Guangdong Freaks.
Yeah, one thing that I love about Guangdong Freaks is all the way through KDL Preseason 1 and also through the first couple of matches in KDL Preseason 2, they identified as, you know, World is our ace, everybody else, we're a runner because we go fast, man. Like everybody here is a top speed racer, but during KDL Preseason 2 so far, they've been doing a lot more, they've been having a lot more success in item mode. They have a greater than 50% win rate. They feel like this meta works for them, and so they rebranded their titles as players. It's no longer 1 speed ace and 3 runners. It's 1 speed ace and 3 hybrids.
Right.
So it's cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's important for branding, right? You never know when roster shuffles will happen. But first up, we are looking at Liiv SANDBOX, and they say, you know, we're really relying on JiMin to be able to kind of shoulder check for us, everyone that comes by. Now, JiMin used to be the item ace, now the hybrid player, ever since they brought in Byungsu as that speed ace to really kind of take over the role of Insu previously in speed mode.
Yeah, and I feel like JiMin as the item ace is a perfect, from going from item ace to hybrid, it's a perfect switch. You see now, it's the rainy season. It seems like there will be a lot of thunder today, perhaps in item mode, yeah.
Yeah, there's a chance. I mean, we've seen teams kind of pray for the items here in the taunts, and it's worked before. I believe it was actually Guangdong Freaks who said, please give us good items, and then they got just sick item lineups in their match that night. So we'll see if this works. Of course, monsoon season upon us, or beginning here in Korea. It has been humid and rainy. See if that will be a shining spot here for Liiv SANDBOX. Meanwhile, their opponents, the Guangdong Freaks.
Kwangdong Freaks looking as good as ever here. Undefeated in last season's head-to-head. Will they continue their win streak against the revamped Liiv SANDBOX? So maybe even throwing a little bit of shade there at the former LSB roster, saying that this one's even better. I mean, who knows? It might be. I really like JiMin moving in from the item ace to the hybrid, by the way, is, you know, we could see in solo speed and KDF just saying, we'll do our best.
Yeah, just nice and simple. Obviously, that's kind of the model that you would want as a pro team.
Yeah, but I mean, for JiMin, like, we watched him in solo speed last season, and he looked really solid, man. One of the few item aces that actually was able to get pretty deep into solo matches. So, you know, he's a very good racer, got a lot of fundamentals. I think the hybrid role is going to suit him very well, especially with his experience as an item ace. Pairing up with Dalda, the new item ace, it's going to be good to see what Liiv SANDBOX has to offer.
Yeah, and we do have Liiv SANDBOX winning the coin flip, and they chose speed priority, bringing us the very first round of this matchup. It begins on WKC Singapore Circuit. Then we go into Boom Hill Tunnel, Terracotta Twister Extreme Stadium, and Japan Circuit. So it does look like SANDBOX trying to take us to these WKC kind of field-like the wider tracks. And meanwhile, I just want to point out, really good to see Guangdong Freaks banning out the winding slopes. That has never done well for them.
Yeah, and I'm kind of interested that we don't see Zigzag Timberland here, as it was not banned by either team, and I think both these teams historically like it quite a bit, so perhaps anticipating their opponents to choose that track, but never really coming to fruition, is an interesting spread here of speed tracks that we have here in match number 1.
Yeah, I'm very curious about the WKC priority here for Liiv SANDBOX. What's the idea? What do they have planned against the Guangdong Freaks as we kick off speed mode in round 1 on WKC Singapore Circuit? And the race begins. Wilcho and State here bringing you the action as we do see Kwangdong FREECS trying to shoot ahead, but Hyunsu's not making it too easy for him.
Oh man, Quill had such a great start there for the FREECS, just immediately sweeping to the left side and slowing down 2 LSB players. Fantastic stuff for him is that's going to allow KDF to consolidate a little bit here at the front of the pack now, and you see that with Spear in first place, World and Cool contesting top 4 as well.
Yeah, curious to see if part of this is just trying to make things a little bit easier for Byung-Soo, right? He's a player who showed a lot of promise in Preseason 1 back when he was on Sensation. Liiv SANDBOX has picked him up as that speed is. Ooh, as we see a little bit of a collision there on the wall from Seongnam. But he's had a little bit of trouble trying to play aggressively in these team matches, and now with the wider tracks, you can try to play your own race a little bit calmer.
Yeah, a little bit easier to play your build here as Byung-Soo. As he falls all the way back to 8th place, would not be surprised to see him start to pass some racers here as we enter almost lap number 2, and for now, LSB very solid there at the front. Neil and JiMin both in first and second place. He World trying to draft, trying to find a line. He does have 2 blue nitros, so should have enough speed gauge to potentially pass both these racers. But man, Neil with an excellent body check is not going to let that happen as LSB just continuing to hold on.
Yeah, I mean, I know they said in their bio that they're relying on JiMin's shoulders,
man.
but Neil's shoulders are just as wide as the entire track as he's trying to block off both players of Kwangdong FREECS. Now World finally trying to get ahead and challenge JiMin for that #1 spot.
Yeah, Neil did miss that last connection there with World, so he falls back into 4th place, but there still is a lot of sweeping potential here as he passes Seongnam, at least for a moment.
Yeah, just avoids that collision a little bit, trying to play safely. Oh, and a nice timing he finds as Cool was trying to guess which way Neil's going to pass. Neil just says, well, I'm 1 step ahead of you. Now he's trying to get that draft timing to catch up against Seongnam. It's going to be coming up once again.
Yeah, with Byung-Soo and Hyunsu right now in 7th and 8th place, there is a ton of pressure here on JiMin and Neil to come away with a 1-2 or at least a 1-3 finish and hope that the remaining players for LSB can try and gain some ground. But with the finish line 400 meters away, I don't think it's going to happen, Will.
Yeah, there was an opportunity. What we noticed as you were mentioning the wind conditions here for SANDBOX was that Neil purposely saves up and times his boost so that he uses 1 team boost, and then he immediately uses that to fill up a second one and then fill the team boost again. So he had 3 blue boosts lined up. However, he gets bumped into the wall, not able to maintain that highest speed possible, and even then, JiMin losing out on that #1 spot. So when you have 2 of your members kind of locked in 7th and 8th, it's always a rough time. Eventually, you do see Hyunsu had picked things up back up just a little bit, but it's still Kwangdong FREECS leading 1-0.
Kwangdong FREECS looking really good here in speed mode, starting things out on Singapore circuit as we're getting ready to go into track number 2, and this is probably going to be the biggest match of the KDL preseason round robin portion, right, before we get into the postseason. So, you know, for Liiv SANDBOX, now that they have retooled and rekitted with these new additions to their team, there's a lot to prove here, not only to themselves, but to their fans.
Yeah, I mean, they came out with an idea over on the WKC tracks. Of course, Singapore circuit, the first one, doesn't quite work out. Now this is in that second lap.
Yeah, I feel like Neil missing the body block there on World just really cost him. He was never actually able to gain that ground, and then Seongnam with a fantastic body check just takes all momentum out of Neil. I mean, Neil, well, in that position there with only a couple 100 meters left to go, you're already up against the ropes as LSB, so just trying to make anything possible happen.
Yeah, here's the thing. I'm loving that Neil is starting to play a bit more that aggressive role here in the team matches, right? Now that you've had that roster shuffle, as they lose 2 of their teammates going to the mandatory military service, Neil started to play more aggressively, and then in solos, he starts to play more safely as well, so a bit of a style change. Curious to see if it continues in round 2 as we go over to Kwangdong FREECS' choice of Village Boom Hill Tunnel.
Here we go on Village Boom Hill Tunnel. FREECS up 1-0, able to deliver the 3rd round loss in speed mode here against Liiv SANDBOX. Let's see if they can keep up that momentum.
Yeah, we did see Byung-Soo just getting blocked out a little bit, so he takes the left side just to make sure he can maintain his momentum, and that allows him to try to catch up.
And Neil again with the body blocks there on Seongnam for the longest time there on that long turn.
Ooh,
just really creating so many problems. Ooh, look at that ricochet there on the back.
Yeah, I mean, World just shoved out 2 players in a row from Liiv SANDBOX, basically forcing them to bounce out even further, wider on their drifts. And now World confidently keeping hold of that 3rd place spot. He's fighting against JiMin. He's doing a pretty darn good job of blocking him out.
Yeah, but behind all this, Neil did fall back into second place, and you see him with his tight inner line trying to find an angle here against Seongnam, but he just keeps colliding. He hasn't actually been able to break ground, and even there on the wider track, you know, he tried to do it. Oh, actually, no, Seongnam! He went for the greedy line, but he missed it. Now Neil uncontested here in first place.
Yeah, the build on the rail. Most players have been taking that recently, but we do see Seongnam falling far back. Meanwhile, JiMin in 7th place, but they still have Seongnam locked in 8th. So Liiv SANDBOX, they have a couple options, and right now, the best one is that they're holding on to the 1-2 between Neil and Byung-Soo.
Yeah, Byung-Soo and Neil just playing their game right now as they make Seongnam pay for that critical mistake. He tried to take the greedy line, go off that rail, and get up onto the curb, but just something went awry there. I'm not sure if it was a collision or the way that he just barely hit it at the wrong angle. Instead, he falls into the water, falls all the way back into 8th place, and Liiv SANDBOX able to get a 1-2 win.
Yeah, you basically saw every player trying to line themselves up for that railing build. However, Seongbin, he takes a bit of a wider angle off the jump, and his kind of wheel lands on the rail instead of the entire car body, and he basically just can't get the bounce right off onto the sidewalk, it looked like. So, you know, everyone else, I mean, that's the thing, right, is that if everyone's gunning for them, you can see that you do definitely want to avoid the collisions. So then you just say, okay, well, how do I angle myself differently? Or do I just take the safer route? And Seongbin, he says, no, I think I could still land the jump. Unfortunately, he actually overshoots it just a tad bit, doesn't get the right bounce, and he falls into the river.
Yeah, with Seongbin the lead racer for KWANGDONG FREECS there on that track, I mean, having him fall all the way back into 8th place just completely diminishes their chances of walking away with a win. As now we are all tied up 1-1, Will. Liiv SANDBOX versus the FREECS. Getting ready to move to track number 3. It will be played on World Tour Terracotta Twister.
Tied 1-1 in this rematch of the Preseason 1 Finals. It is Liiv SANDBOX and KWANGDONG FREECS here on Terracotta Twister as we see Spear just shooting forward, holding on to that number 1 spot in lap 1.
Yeah, Spear were having a very clean breakaway there, as I guess there might have been a little bit of sweeping on both sides here for LSB and the FREECS. Oh, that's a significant lead this early on, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the wider leads we've seen in lap 1. Of course, Terracotta Twister, once you get into the tube section, there is that opportunity as everyone is going to lose a little bit of speed around these corners. And we do see actually 2, 3, 4 for Liiv SANDBOX. They've all caught up, and everyone just trying to avoid any aggressive collisions here in lap 1.
Yeah, a bit of a collision does have Byung-Soo fall all the way back to 6th place, but not too bad as he's now only maybe an extra half of a second behind his teammates Neil and Hyunsoo right now, who are trying to set up the 2v1 here against Spear, and you see them with these drafts just continuously getting closer and closer as we enter lap number 2.
Yeah, and Byung-Soo trying to provide support as well, but so is the entire team of KWANGDONG FREECS. This one's a tough one as we enter lap 2. No clear team breaking away. Oh, but JiMin and Byung-Soo, they get caught in another bit of a collision around the corner, and now all eyes on Hyunsoo and Neil once again to try to make something happen for Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, but it's so hotly contested here at the front, and the KDF, they have so many bodies. Spear, World, and Cool all creating problems here. You see World trying to push Hyunsoo into the wall as best he can. Hyunsoo was able to avoid that, but also Spear blocking him out. And now with 2 players of KDF in front of him in this intersection, we could see some pretty nice sweeping, and actually no. It's going to be a collision with a wall that has LSB falling back.
Yeah, and a 1, 2, 3, and Byung-Soo, he's trying to just stay ahead. He does slow down cool enough for Neil to pass, but here's the thing, you've still got Hyunsoo and JiMin all the way at the back of the line. It's not going to be enough as we enter the final 500 meters. The 1-2 punch is way too far ahead between World and Spear as they cross the finish line and bring another round win for the KWANGDONG FREECS.
Man, we saw Spear take that lead so early on and never really give it up. It was his teammate World that came in and joined him for 1st and 2nd place. This KDF just in control from start to finish, and LSB with a couple unfortunate collisions there, especially in the inner tomb area. You know, nothing catastrophic, but against a team as skilled as the KDF, even the slightest misstep on a track like this one can be fatal, and indeed it was. As World, Spear, and Seongbin not even just delivering the 1-2, but the 1-2-3 finish here for KDF.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, State, against either of these teams, right, you make one small mistake, you're going to start to fall behind, but especially in speed mode against KDF, it's a rough one, so Liiv SANDBOX not able to recover a bit. does look like Neil also maybe not in the best conditions. We know that a couple members of Liiv SANDBOX, they've been sick the past couple weeks, so everyone's still in that recovery mode. But yeah, we saw a couple collisions actually on that exact corner here from Liiv SANDBOX as they were desperately trying to make some moves. And Byung-soo, he recovers, right? He's trying to block out Cool, maintain that third place, just ride it as close as possible. And he does recover, but it's not enough.
It almost seemed like it was a little, the slightest nudge of a pit maneuver there by Cool to create that problem there. And that was enough to deliver the win there for KDF. Let's see if they can close it out here in speed mode, up 2-1 as we move on to Glacier Extreme Stadium. Match point now for the Kwangdong FREECS as they look to make Liiv SANDBOX bleed even more. As LSB, they have been so solid in team speed throughout the duration of KDL Season 2, but oh, man, the FREECS, they're just something else.
Yeah, and once again, Cool holding on to that #1 spot. Neil tried to contest for it, but that's been the story of speed mode so far tonight between these two teams. KDF, they take the lead, and they haven't been letting go of it.
Yeah, Cool right now solidly in first place. You can see Neil trying to chase him down, and for Seongnam, really their role right here is just going to be sweeping and trying to make sure that Cool can play his build completely uncontested, because if he's able to get a little bit more distance there on Neil, I mean, this could just be rank 1 being locked up by the KDF. And as we've seen for LSB so far in the previous tracks, as we proceed through these hairpin turns, they've really struggled to have a lot of players in contention for something like a 2-3-4 finish, right? Now a little bit better here in track number 4, but still a commanding position for KDF should Seongnam be able to shore up the flank.
Now, in terms of the internal order and placings right now for Liiv SANDBOX, it's not so bad. Give Byung-soo the lead, make sure he can get 1 or 2. Neil's behind to try to adjust, and then you've got either Hyunsoo or JiMin to basically lock down Spear in 8th place. That gives you a lot more options to work with. Let's see if JiMin's able to hold on to that 7 and be that gatekeeper.
Yeah, but Seongnam and World right now causing problems. They recognize that this is a win condition here for LSB in the final lap, as LSB, they were desperately trying to hold on to that 2-3-4, now don't. Just 1 point, as Hyunsoo and JiMin there in position 6 and 7 are going to have to try to do their best to close the distance here, coming into the hairpins. Yeah, Neil takes the first turn quite well, still being able to block out World, and he does it yet again, but still a 1-point lead for KDF.
Yeah, he tried to get a couple of stops and he was successful. They weren't strong enough, and now a bit of a shuffle, but it's still going to be a lead for KWANGDONG FREECS, as we see basically Liiv SANDBOX not able to escape that 6th, 7th position. Sure, they kept Seongnam in 8th, but that's all they got, as KWANGDONG FREECS, they will be able to close things out here in round 4 with a 3-1 score in speed mode.
Yeah, Spear with the 5th rank was just able to do enough to prevent LSB from gaining those points all the way in the back ranks. As we look at the spread right now, 1-3-5-8 here for KDF. Cool even setting a new record, as his teammates gave him so much breathing room. And Liiv SANDBOX coming into today, they had an 85.7% win rate in rounds in team speed, but not doing so hot anymore. They get their first set loss of the season.
Yeah, curious to see if they're going to be able to bounce back in item mode. Now, the storyline for Liiv SANDBOX here in Preseason 2 has been basically, I mean, how does this new roster look, right? We're not quite sure what the exact potential is. We don't know where the ceiling is. And a lot of that is eyes on Dalda here. He comes in as that new item ace. Of course, Neil will be sitting this one out. And curious to see, you know, how can he recover from this? Because Liiv SANDBOX, they had some great ideas in Preseason 1 in their own interpretation and favors of the tracks that they have, the preferences. Preseason 2, it doesn't seem to have stabilized just yet.
Yeah, and it really does feel like the story for a lot of teams here in KDL. From Preseason 1 to Preseason 2, we've seen a role reversal with teams that formerly dominated in item mode, now struggling a little bit in this much more aggressive and frankly more chaotic and also complicated meta. Is there's a lot of different approaches that you can have here on a variety of tracks. As we look at the item track list here for main stage, match number 18, Liiv SANDBOX will have priority here. They're going to choose Factory Cogwheel Crush as track number 1, followed by Liiv SANDBOX's pick, Magma Cavern, and then we will go to Brody's Gloom, Mine Motherload, and Polar Halfpipe for rounds 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, so all tracks that we also had in Preseason 1, it looks like. And we should be able to continue on, see what the ideas are here. Now, we did see, some different interpretations, right? R has definitely been relying on kind of the lightning and boost combo, a different set of items. It didn't work out in their previous match tonight against Seongnam ROX. ROX came out with a victory there. Curious to see what Kwangdong Freaks and SANDBOX have prepared for us tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Both these teams kind of struggling to get their footing here in item mode so far, relying on their speed success to deliver all these wins. I mean, KDF right now 9-8 in item mode overall in rounds. Liiv SANDBOX 7-8. Liiv SANDBOX, they need to win this item mode though if they want to force an ace match here against the KWANGDONG FREECS. As we move to track number 1, it will be Factory Cogwheel Crush.
And the race begins. Item mode between Liiv SANDBOX and KWANGDONG FREECS. Dalda coming in as that item ace for Liiv SANDBOX. Can he make the right calls to bring them a victory here?
Would love to see it. Is Cogwheel Crush one of the more complicated tracks that we have here in item mode. A lot of obstacles like this big sweeping mechanism right here we have. We got some blockers up ahead too, some banana machines. A lot of tricky tracks here in lap number 1, lap number 2 on Cogwheel Crush, and we'll see how these players decide to play around those things. As Liiv SANDBOX, Dalda, and JiMin, for now in the lead, Seongnam with a boost will be able to close the distance as JiMin pops the shield, but with a magnet also slowing him down. Would not be surprised to see KDF start to close the distance.
Yeah, he's not going to be sitting too far forward, but as it goes, especially on this track and generally in item mode. Now, most importantly, we do have a couple boosts lined up. Not something that you'll necessarily have to save, but curious to see. Oh, they actually shove out Spear there into the shortcut.
Yeah, and 3 players for LSB were all able to take that shortcut as well. So not only did Spear get denied, but that's 75% of the team here for LSB who was able to, skip a significant portion here of the track. So their front line is going to be a lot stronger here at 3v2. Byung-Soo, JiMin, and Dalda versus World and Spear.
Yeah, Byung-Soo just accurately reading that the water bomb's coming because he sees World right behind him also sitting against that wall. Now, right now we do see KDF. They're always trying to have someone hang back for these water bombs. Does it hit? No, Dalda avoids it once again.
This is looking really good for Liiv SANDBOX though, man. They have 3 players here in the front racks. Every single one of them has a nitro. They have 2 angel shields also in the bag here on the final lap. I would not be surprised to see them hold on to those for an extended period of time. Meanwhile, KDF, they're all in the lower ranks.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of these players have gotten better with the instant boost as well ever since the kind of timing change from the balloons that you have off of those water wisp and water bombs. Now, Byung-Soo still with that angel shield and the boost. Now, magnets, though, double magnets on the side of KWANGDONG FREECS. It's a bit of a rock, paper, scissors game here between Liiv SANDBOX and KWANGDONG FREECS.
Yeah, we'll see exactly how it plays out as we're entering the final 500 meters of this trek right now. Byung-Soo still in first place, but only has a shield and an angel shield. Angel shield does get popped for Liiv SANDBOX as Byung-Soo continues to race away. Not enough speed, but doesn't matter, man. Just needs the defensive items as his teammates were able to shore up the flank, and Byung-Soo and JiMin for Liiv SANDBOX able to deliver the track 1 win.
And I love what Byung-Soo does. He uses the boost early just to get ahead, but he doesn't use it to get onto the upper track because you see that the magnet is behind you. So you don't want to give that advantage over. You still have another one of your teammates with the boost behind. You're still going to be able to overtake onto that upper track. So you're actually just saying, okay, well, I'm going to make that magnet useless. I'm not going to allow you to try to catch up to me. And at the end of the day, that does allow them to defend themselves and keep the speed to cross the finish line first.
Yeah, I'm liking what we're seeing out of Liiv SANDBOX, man. It felt like they were really in control from, the end of lap number 1 to the finish line there in lap number 2. They had so many racers at the front of the pack and, able to trade aggro and then come through with some clutch defensive items to deliver the win, as they're now 2 track wins away from forcing an ace match. And I think everybody here would love to see an ace match between Liiv SANDBOX and the KWANGDONG FREECS. I mean, 2 star-studded lineups.
Yeah, I mean, you could send out any of the players on either side, and it would be an absolute match to watch. Curious to see if Liiv SANDBOX can make it happen. Definitely does seem like they had a very strong idea by the end of lap 1 of, okay, these are our win conditions. This is what we can do to make sure we keep up. See if that happens again as we go over to their choice here in round 2, getting ready for Mine Magma Cavern.
And here we go on the ever-dangerous Mine Magma Cavern, a very fun map. One of my favorite maps here in item mode, as there are a lot of segments where with rockets spinning players out, you can force them off the track into the lava. There are a lot of narrow areas as well, where you can set up water balloons too. We've seen that in KDL Preseason 1 a bunch, with teams trying to set up, you know, wombo combos and catch their opponents heading in towards that final finish line. I can't wait to see what these teams have cooked up specifically for this track.
Yeah, now Lightning Bolt nice and early here for Spear. Do they take a page from Aura's book and say, okay, well, let's keep that for insurance? Curious to see. I mean, I think it's worth keeping maybe, you know, towards the, up until the end of lap 2, and then say if we can't stack it, let's just use it for tempo. So you have a couple options here for Kwangdong Freaks.
Yeah, I like that idea, and I would not be surprised either to see Spear just kind of hold on to that, even with Cool holding on to a second one. I mean, if you have 3 Lightnings heading into lap number 3, yeah, you're not going to be able to... Oh, they actually do right now as Spear picks up a second.
It's lined up, and guess what? Liiv SANDBOX was praying for thunderstorms tonight, but it's going to be in favor of Kwangdong Freaks and SANDBOX. They're going to have to start finding answers. They find one Angel Shield, but that's not enough against 3 of these Lightnings getting ready here for Kwangdong Freaks.
Yeah, and so now for Seongnam and World, you know, the game plan has to be setting up with, you know, Nitrous and Magnets and maybe a Shield or an Angel Shield, because Spear and Cool, between the two of them, they only have really, I guess, 2 item slots available. Both of them are going to hang on to Thunderbolts. They did use one of them just now.
Yeah, it draws out that Angel Shield, but you know what? Thankfully for Liiv SANDBOX, they're able to get one more. Dalda does recycle into a second one, so still a couple options, but another Lightning Bolt now ready.
Wow.
Another triple for Kwangdong Freaks. Liiv SANDBOX just cannot escape the clouds but the sky tonight.
Yeah, and that's going to cause another Lightning to rotate out, so KDF, they're happy just to hold on to 2 of them, and that's going to be Cool all the way to the flank. And they got another one there on Spear. That must be the 5th Lightning Bolt they picked up so far here on this track, is the Thunder Gods are favoring them. Zeus smiles brightly here on the Kwangdong Freaks.
Here comes 1, here comes 2,
Oh
and 3,
my
and
goodness.
Hyunsu is just stuck in the middle of the track. He cannot move. Shield on for World as he crosses the finish line. Boy, oh boy, was SANDBOX right. It is absolutely rainy season, but in favor of Kwangdong Freaks.
I think that was 5 Lightning Bolts on the side of
Yes.
KDF, and potentially none for Liiv SANDBOX, which is just an insane disparity. I mean, my goodness, for KDF, things just could not have gone better, as the Lightning Chain Stun was impeccable, like something out of Greek mythology. Just the skies raining hellfire here on Liiv SANDBOX, and now we're all tied up 1-1 here in item mode.
I mean, that's rough. And you could see, SANDBOX, they were trying to make sure that they had some other options. But at that point, like when you see that the enemies are just setting up for this wombo combo, all you can do is keep cycling through, right? And Magma Cavern is not a long track, right? Those laps go by pretty quick. You're not going to have too many extra options. And as we saw, they didn't get the perfect ones they needed. I mean, they even actually got a couple extra Angels, but Kwangdong Freaks just answered right back with more Lightnings.
I mean, the Lightning Chain Stun is
is.
absolutely insane. He's already full stuffed, and they get him again.
Yeah, he can't even accelerate. Like, that's how bad it was. He's literal chain stun here in Kart Rider Drift. Not something you expect to say every day.
It's like a
in this
MOBA.
game. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he wasn't moving. He wasn't moving. A lot of people would say that's what you call anti-fun in a video game, but that's what Hyunsu had to deal with. As we get ready for round number 3, we go to Factory Brody's Gloom. And it's the Kwangdong Freaks bringing us to yet another factory track here in item mode as they try to see if they can continue gaining more rounds, close this out in a 2-0 fashion.
Yeah, it's 2 tracks away now for both these teams. Kwangdong Freaks 2 tracks away from a 2-0 win. Liiv SANDBOX 2 tracks away from forcing what would be an incredibly hype ace match between the top 2 teams here in the KDL Preseason 2.
Yeah, and we're just seeing, of course, everyone trying to cycle through any of the kind of single target attacks you have, see what else you can gain. And Dalda will barely make it across here before potentially getting stuffed. Lots of bananas in action today here on Factory.
I think Simon just bananaed Cool, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe. Maybe. We have seen some mishaps in item mode so far here in Preseason 2.
Yep, as we get a nice picture-in-picture look to see exactly where things line up, it seems like, no, for Dalda and Byungsu, there isn't a lot of reinforcements coming anytime soon with both JiMin and Hyunsu all the way there in the black now. Or back, excuse me, is JiMin here with a Magnet, should be able to close the distance somewhat, and now it's Liiv SANDBOX who's starting to save up the Lightnings. Hyunsu there in 8th place does have one in the bag. They would love to add on to that here add on to that here in lap number 2.
I mean, yeah, if you can, absolutely, right? You already have one, might as well. If not, at least try to get more of those missiles and wisps, right? Something that targets, something that forces those shields to come out.
Yeah.
Hyunsu, meanwhile, will use that boost to shoot forward. They're actually going to use a lot of their other items to try to start cycling through, make sure they get some of their own defensive maneuvers as well.
Yeah, not a lot of big attacks here. We do have Angel Shields coming out on both teams, one apiece. Liiv, SANDBOX, Hyunsu still the only player on the field with a Lightning Bolt as some Water Wisps now come in. Hyunsu will be able to pop that shield, but the Water Wisp will catch him because of that. And now Liiv, SANDBOX with 3 racers here entering the latter portion of this track. EMP as well for Hyunsu, so Hyunsu in a nice supporting role.
Yeah, that EMP is going to be huge because Spear right now with the Magnet and Boost trying to vie for an opportunity. He's trying to line himself up for both. The Wisp does get shielded. Byung-Soo and JiMin trying to shoot forward. JiMin bites the Magnet. He draws the aggro, but the UFOs all get denied here as Spear just flies through and crosses the finish line.
That was like an alien invasion, man. There were like 2 or 3 UFOs coming in right there, but every single one gets denied by a perfectly timed EMP. I mean, I would love to see those get staggered, but instead, that's going to be track number, what, 3 here? 4 here, going over to KDF?
Yeah, round 3 going to KDF, leading 2-1 in item mode. And all right, they're trying to say we are still the defending champions here in the KDL, of course, just in the preseason so far. Spear crosses the finish line this time first for his team. They're now on set and match point against Liiv, SANDBOX.
KDF would love to pick up one more win, and man, they've been looking really solid here in item mode so far. I mean, they didn't really have the luck of the draw that they did previously, right? With all those lightning bolts they had stack up in the mines, but still just able to work out the perfect synergy, come through with a win. Spear crossing that finish line first here as we have a recap of those final 500 meters. Now Byung-Soo does get caught, is able to pop a shield, and here this Magnet, just no counterplay for it. Spear gets so much momentum, the UFOs come in, they quickly get EMP'd, and the Water Wisp is too late.
Yeah, basically the triple UFO, like you said, I mean, because of the time it takes for them to fly in, you can't try to wait too long, and you're trying to make sure that he's solidly in the lead before you use it. But KWANGDONG FREECS, they understand the mission. They say, okay, well, if we can just get around the corner, we have this EMP, it should buy enough time for you to cross the line. And they actually deny all 3 as Liiv, SANDBOX. Again, the timing missed a little bit. Can they recover from that in round 4 as we go over to Mine Motherlode? KWANGDONG FREECS on the verge of closing things out by taking a victory in both speed and item mode. Liiv, SANDBOX wanting to answer back. JiMin actually not able to get the double items. He's just going to have to sit with a single Magnet for now here in lap 1.
Yeah, no double item, just the Magnet now. As Hyunsu popping a Magnet of his own will be able to work his way into first place, and with some shields, eat up a little bit of aggro now as we have a lot of racers coming through in this shortcut. Is shields have been coming through clutch for a lot of these players. Oftentimes at the very start of these rounds, we have so many missiles connecting, but it feels like everything is getting deflected on both sides.
Yeah, JiMin just has no luck with the items today. He tried to slow down to pick up another one, and he just passes it before they spawn. So he's going to have to wait for another set of items for an opportunity to try to cycle through.
Yep, and here we go now. Seongnam in first place. Spear right behind him is JiMin actually with incredible speed there on that Magnet, and then slowing down to avoid the water balloon. Nicely played by him. Another shield gets popped, that missile also gets deflected. A lot of aggro getting soaked up by JiMin, who now has 2 EMPs.
I mean, JiMin's basically kind of clocking in for all the items he missed in lap 1, trying to cycle through. Now a bit of a banana just to throw some chaos in lap 2, but of course we've still got a little ways to go here on this track.
Yeah, but halfway through the track now is things still looking very even. Another lineup here, as we see all the racers past Seongnam, who got slowed down yet again, is quite fair, you know? Liiv, SANDBOX, Dalda, and JiMin, yes, they are here in the front, but KDF with 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, and here with the EMPs and a lot of these Angel Shields starting to get stacked up as well, I think what's going to end up becoming more important is going to be the boost rather than a lot of these attacks that some teams like to save up. Sure, you have the Lightning Bolt currently saved up for Seongnam, but we do see Angel Shields on both sides. EMPs being saved up by Liiv, SANDBOX as well.
Yeah, 3 EMPs right now on the field here for Liiv, SANDBOX is going to be pretty much immune, but Seongnam with double Lightning is a very dangerous situation here as KDF might be able to make some magic happen with Thunder yet again on lap number 3.
Yeah, they're going to look to make sure it happens because World's lined up with the Magnet. He actually gets water bombed, though, as he tries to use it, so he's not going to be able to take advantage of that one. Dalda currently with more shields being saved up. He should be able to defend himself. The water bomb as well. I mean, sure, we're watching Byungsu being stuck right now, but Dalda's all the way ahead. He still is able to shield away from that. Oh, no, he actually gets hit by the lightning bolt.
Oh, the lightning bolt connects, and now it's going to be World. EMP pops, so the UFO gets taken out, but the missile does connect, and now it's actually Spear with a missile who connects, and he's going to spin his way into first place. KWANGDONG FREECS with a 3-1 victory here in item mode will secure the 2-0 win as they remain undefeated.
Man, in the previous match of the night, we saw JJONG blocking everyone on that narrow ramp, but this time Spear says, we're not making the same mistake. I am just going to fall off the ramp to make sure that I avoid that collision. So despite getting hit by the missile at the end, it actually just barely pushes him over the finish line. And it's going to be KWANGDONG FREECS taking the win in both speed and item mode.
Yeah, in pretty convincing fashion too, if I'm not mistaken. That was what, 3-1 in speed and 3-1 in item. So KDF with a very good round differential, taking out potentially their strongest opponent here in KDL Preseason 2 round robin portion, now moving up to 5-0 overall.
Wow, I mean, hey, they're the defending champions from Preseason 1, so no big surprise here, but I think we got our answer for the question of what does this new roster of Liiv SANDBOX looks like? Is there potential? Absolutely. Is there hope? Absolutely. And of course, individually, they're all such reputable players. However, the chemistry and the meta development not quite there for them here in Preseason 2.
I mean, these things take time, especially after you retool and rekit the same way that Liiv SANDBOX has with their roster shuffle from KDL Preseason 1 to KDL Preseason 2. And, you know, we still have a lot of maps left to be played, a lot of games left to be played here remaining in KDL Preseason 2 before we head to that postseason for both these teams. So, you know, Liiv SANDBOX, look to see them continue to improve upon that chemistry, work better as a team. And, you know, this team, although they did lose here to the Freaks, they're 4-1 still overall. So they have a ticket to the postseason almost all but assuredly.
Oh,
and
yes.
I would not be surprised to see them make leaps and bounds of improvements between now and then.
Oh, sure, yeah. There's no doubt most likely that Liiv SANDBOX, unless something insane happens where they lose like all their further matches and it's all like sweeps, something like that, they should at least very well be going into that playoff, the tournament stage here. But for now, it's going to be the KWANGDONG FREECS leading 5-0 and Seongnam ROX with a 4-0 record. Now, just to note, these three pro teams, right, with the pro organizations behind them, tonight was the first night that any of them met each other here in Preseason 2, starting with KWANGDONG FREECS and Liiv SANDBOX. So now ROX, they're going to have future opportunities to try to challenge both the Freaks and SANDBOX. Of course, SANDBOX a chance to redeem themselves against the ROX as well. So we're still waiting to see what the top two looks like here in team mode in Preseason 2 of the KDL.
Yeah, and ROX versus the KWANGDONG FREECS is going to be another headliner match. I'm not sure exactly when we have that one lined up, but I cannot wait to watch it or cast it. That's going to be so much fun as Seongnam ROX, they've improved so much from KDL Preseason 1 to KDL Preseason 2. And I mean, this season just keeps getting better, man. You could feel how much every individual team has improved over the course of the first KDL now to the second KDL as we get ready to gear up for the regular season. And the postseason was already hype a couple of weeks ago, but I think it's going to be even better this time.
Yeah, I mean, Preseason 2, also with the item mode developments, right, with the updates and the patches, has made it a lot more kind of varied, and teams, sure, I know if you're a player, oftentimes patches can feel like a burden because you got to figure out a new meta. However, that's kind of what keeps it interesting and keeps everyone on your toes, and this is where you really can start to distinguish, okay, well, who are the players that will absolutely always survive and figure out how to get there, like players like Neil or HoJun in speed mode and solos, right, where they're always able to adapt to either, you know, patches or entirely new games of Cartwriter. This is where we'll start to see, okay, which teams continue to survive as we see these updates across both modes.
Yeah, with the new tracks here, both in speed mode and item mode as well, and the meta shift here in item mode, I mean, it's just getting more and more fun. So future is bright here at the KDL, man. I'm feeling really good. And, you know, later on, we have a fantastic solo match too. Speaking of HoJun, he's going to be playing with JJONG later tonight.
Yeah, we'll see JJONG more on stage. Of course, because it's the weekend, we have the solo matches ready for you. So we're not quite done with the show just yet, so don't go anywhere. But of course, we did just wrap up that kind of head-to-head between Liiv SANDBOX and KWANGDONG FREECS. Currently, FREECS still looking a lot stronger. And as you can see, an absolutely star-studded lineup in the later half of the round of 16. This is our second group. We had match 1 yesterday. Now it's going to be match 2 of the round of 16. We'll get to the solo matches after taking a quick break. We'll see you then.
너 T야. 이거 개웃기더라. 너 T야?
나 T야. 큐티, 프리티.
여보세요.
들려요?
내 말 들림?
예.
오케이. 우준이 말도 들립니다.
아니 안 들림. 아니 안 들림.
아, 왜 안 들려요?
아니 안 들린다고.
여보세요?
안 들림.
조병 바보.
물론 번개를 맞았을 때 치명적일 수 있지만 이 트랙 같은 경우는 맨 마지막 피니시라인 직전에 맞으면 오르막길이기 때문에 더 치명적일 수 있습니다.
자, 붙을게. 번개 있어.
파 들렸어.
자, 학교 가자. 1등 우리 트랙 1등. 나도 1등 같지. 알았어. 나번 챙겨갈게.
챙겨줘.
말이 깔때 말이.
깔게. 깔았어. 위야 맞아.
네, 저 완전 바로
괜찮아, 얘들아. 괜찮아.
거리 됐다.
맞아도 돼.
번개 2개야.
오케이.
사지 버릴게.
서버도 체인 라이트닝 떴다.
야, 여름에 장마가 올 수 있습니다 이제.
지금 할게.
대기.
날개 있고. 하나 더. 하나 더.
가! 되지? 이제 딴거 이거 깔아줄게.
그래야죠 어때?
나이스.
와, 미쳤다.
미안해.
이거 안 밀어도 됐어.
미안해.
괜찮아.
미안해. 아.
돌린다. 오, 사빈공.
그때랑 똑같은 레코드 그냥. 하면 어때? 나한 3위하고 여기서 100이면 마지막으로 한 번만 믿어줘. 이게 개사지였다. 나 할 거 다 했다.
띵이 주행에 워낙에 강점이 있는 선수이기 때문에 초반에 썸머가 실수하면 안 됩니다.
이제 고평가를 잘 봤던 선수이기 때문에
천천히 가야 돼요. 어때요? 그냥 뚫어야 돼요. 천천히 가야 돼요. 서버가. 이야.
근데 이거 마지막 드레타임이 있습니다 띵에게.
자, 이러면 띵 위쪽으로 가고 있니까 서버 바로 뒤요.
띵이 그 인코스 한번 틀어막는데 성공을 해서 경기가 터졌네요.
원투.
김태. 안녕하세요. 김태입니다. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요. 센세이션의 문호준입니다.
센세이션 김태요.
좋고요. 가세요.
쇼타임도 2편 하면서 얻은 그 경험치가 있을 거거든요.
특히나 스피드전과 애결 능력치를 좀 성장을 해줘야겠죠.
저기서 꼴찌일 것 같은데.
아이고 꼴찌만 어때? 너 못하는 거 다 알아.
뭐야? 아니 3위 꼴등인가?
꼴찌야.
와 진짜 꼴등이네. 형 캐리할게. 아니 근데 나 초반에 버티다가 어쩔 수 없어.
너 T야. 이거 개웃기더라. 너 T?
나 T야. 큐티. 프리티.
난 SSD.
나 벤티.
아.
이거 너 때문에 이거 방송 못 나가. 진짜 레알.
가게임이 이에 붙어있는 상황에서 플레이를 살짝 날렸어요.
알았어요.
이렇게 앞에 있어. 천천히 와볼게.
과감하게 앞서니.
이러면 뭐 조커가 막 흔들어주면서 원투는 조금 더 멀어집니다.
바꿔놨다. 나 왼쪽 막았어. 살짝.
자, 나머지 순위도 쉽지 않네요. 이렇게 원투로 들어올 때
야무졌다.
와, 뒤로 개빠른데?
내 주행. 내거 뺏어. 내 주행.
근데 은재형이랑
내 주행 어땠어? 야, 너 레코드일걸?
어떤 전략으로 가져갈지 우선 하나 등장했어요.
일단 안다 이거.
번개 있어. 3파였어.
나 센터.
왼쪽 돌면서 사이드 좀.
가량.
나 앞에 붙을게 일단.
실드했다. 다리에서 하고 지훈아 나 빨고 째빨하자.
오케이.
돌 간다. 나 먼저 할게 이거.
네 먼저 하세요.
나 빨렸어 해지. 경기 맞는다. 너무 늦어.
오케이.
빨아봐. 늦게. 해봐.
머리 할 거야. 맞아.
난 이거 못 가거든. 앞에서는
다리 하나 빨고. 일단 빨았다.
2등 팔이 줬어 그러면. 2등 줬어 따르면. 어때? 유영아 어때?
나이스.
일부러 2등 팔이 줬어. 나 1등 빨았다 해서.
나이스. 개잘했어.
나 1등 잡을 수 있어. 팔이 나 여기라고. 요. 와. 시끄러. 누구야 소리 지는 거?
홍성민.
정민아 좀.
여기서 계속 소리 지를 거야?
홍성민. 어때서 먹냐?
야, 부모님 오셨대. 뭐라지 마.
오케이.
우리 살아야 돼, 오늘은.
오케이. 한분이 살려.
지금부터 날려보시죠.
내가 밀게.
제가 습관적으로 가끔 거짓말을 해요.
오디오 이슈로 잠깐만 말해봐 한번 한 명만 말해봐 안 들려
김다원 바보 멍청이 똥개.
안 들려
손들어. 야, 니 잘못이니까 빨리 사과해. 카메라 대고.
화이팅 합시다 여러분.
빨리 하고 그냥 실수해도 괜찮으니까 편하게 하자. 이래
들어갔다 이제. 들어갔다. 고정.
일단 떼볼까? 오, 너 떴다 이거?
괜찮아?
우리 팀팔 수도 있어?
막아놨어.
가봐.
한 명의 선수가 아래쪽으로 떨어진 상황이기 때문에 어차피 이제는 상체 싸움이다라는 생각 갖고 있어야겠고요.
끝까지.
한명 튕겨나와.
1등 고정이다.
아 이거.
잡아보자. 가봐. 나 뭐야지, 동민아? 한번 해봐.
스탑했어.
그냥 가봐. 나 8등이야. 하면 한 번만.
뒤로 스탑했는데 과연 여기서 콜이 들어옵니다.
해봐갖고. 나이스. 한번 돌렸다. 일단 작업이야. 하나.
들어갔어. 나 갈게.
얘 멀어. 1사고 가야 돼. 와봐. 봤어. 3.
야 뒤에 작업이야.
옷을 해야 돼. 봤다. 까비.
야 진짜 캐리.
와, 재현이 형 지렸다. 이제.
나이스. 잠깐만.
좀 들어가야겠죠. 과연 마지막 1등 안될 듯. 1등 그리고
가자.
다행이다.
현재까지는 양팀 모두 다 스피드전과 아이템전 픽한 트랙은 다 가져오고 있습니다. 굉장히 또 재밌는 상황이네요.
놔두게. 봐봐. 맞아. 이거 템 하나 더 먹어. 나 밀지 마.
나 옷 1번.
헬스 하나 빼볼게.
이거 챙겼어.
얘네 헬스 없다. 리퍼 있음.
이거 내가 다섯 깔아줄게. 잠깐만.
하면 날라갈 수 있어?
사이가 날라와.
나 탄이었다. 안 깔게.
누가?
그냥 내가 날라와줄까 이러면?
날라와줘.
잠깐만. 나야? 그냥 빨리면 가지마.
이거 사이드 가능해? 둘 번개할게. 나 아웃 뺄게. 3인. 맞아. 다 맞아.
나 미사일.
맞았거든 얘. 떼매졌어.
우주까지. 되나?
우주.
나이스! 막템 우주 나왔어.
나도 나왔다.
내거 미사일까지 맞아버렸어.
아깝다. 내가 빨렸어. 빨려가지고 이제 한 거야.
찬스 없었는데 잘 이겼다.
얘네 쨘바닥에 빠는데 바로 쏴버려.
Welcome back, everyone. We return with our final match of the night, and of course, it's going to be our solos here on the weekends of KDL. My name is Will Cho, continuing the broadcast with State. We got the 2-team matches out of the way. Now we've got 8 excellent players taking the stage.
Yeah, man, and these 2 team matches, they were headliners, right? We had basically 4 top 4 teams. I know Aura was technically 5th, but 4 top 4 teams fighting it out. And now here in this solo match, we're getting into one of the most hot groups in the round of 16 as we have a quick look at the overview of solo match. Of course, 10 million Korean won, the first place prize here in KDL Preseason 2. That is just shy of 10,000 US dollars. And right now playing in the round of 16, 4 of these players will advance to the winners match. 4 of them will advance to their last chance losers match.
Yeah, so we had the match 1, the first group yesterday, where we saw Cool, World, Ding, and Neil moving on to the winners match. Meanwhile, Sungbin, Hyunsu, Joker, and Dutzy will be awaiting 4 extra players in the losers match at the bottom of the bracket. And tonight, we've got the bottom row ready for you. You know, headlined by players like JJONG and HoJun, but there's still a lot of other strong houses. I mean, literally everyone has a reason to be rooted for. Everyone has a reason to really say that they have a claim to the winners match.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at round of 16 match 1, I would say that's a group of death, but then you go look at round of 16 group 2, and it's like, wait, that's also a group of death. How do we have 2 groups of death here in the round of 16? It's absolutely crazy, the talent, as we have a quick look at the track best record. Joker holding on to WKC Brazil circuit, and actually kind of just browsing over this, looks like JJONG has in total 2 track records overall, Sungbin with 2 as well.
Yeah, we've got a couple players with doubles, but
pretty
otherwise,
widespread.
Yeah, widespread, and notably, of course, Ancient Aqueducts and New York Rally being the 2 tracks held by players no longer in the round of 16. They got eliminated, Byung-soo and Hong being eliminated in the round of 32, but still left a name for themselves. Curious to see if any of these remaining players will ever top those times here in the solo matches.
Yeah, and a fun thing also to note out of this group today is of the 8 players that are playing, 6 of them actually played in the team matches earlier today, so man, they are going to be warmed up
Yeah.
coming into these solos, man.
I mean, they've been here the entire evening, and we'll kick things off with Luning in the yellow stripes and just saying, I want to try making it to the winner's match. Well, it's not going to be an easy path today.
No, but first in podium percent overall with 87.5%, as that's a very good reason for him to be wearing the gold stripes right now as the highest ranking racer here in this lobby. Luning, Wolf's favorite pick from KDL Preseason 1, definitely showing up in Preseason 2, and now JJONG, of course, the ace hero for ROX esports. Last season, now in Season 2, looking to solidify his position as one of our best racers in the world in solos.
Yeah, and he's just once again saying that he continues to be in the same group as his teammate Spell. And it looks like maybe that might be JJONG's parents here to root him on. We'll have to wait and see. Now, of course, moving right along with the red stripes, it's going to be Hero from Aura. And listen, I mean, he's just saying, listen, I'm expected to go straight to the winner's match, and there's good reason. I mean, he's been one of those stars that really made a name for himself back in Kart Rider League. He's trying to do the same here in KDL.
Yeah, and even in team speed coming into today, ranked second overall in overall positions, as the Emperor himself and the White Stripes also in this group wants to go to the winner's match. No surprise there. This guy, legendary force in Kart Rider, and him versus JJONG gonna be my main storyline here, man. I cannot wait to see these two fight off, as you know, HoJun, he's looking so much stronger here in KDL Preseason 2 than KDL Preseason 1. You can tell that he's been grinding all the way up in the top 4 in overall speed ranks as we get a look at Spear.
Yep, Spear also one of those players who, you know, not necessarily always with the flashiest highlights, but obviously an incredible racer on the Guangdong Freaks. We just watched him in the team matches. He's trying to continue on his way up through the winner's match here in the round of 16. Again, tough group for anybody, but my eyes are on this guy, Most. The actual pure rookie now remaining here in the solos, right? This is his first time competing in the solos in KDL here, but a lot of people have had their eyes on him. He's been making a name for himself on the Grand Prix in the timetables for his own track records, and now he's saying, well, I've even made it to the round of 16. Can I go further? I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, it would be an incredible upset for Most to come through in top 4 in the lobby as stacked as this one now, as we get a look at Spell. Of course, JJONG also rooting him on as, yeah, he's also cheering for JJONG as ROX Esports staying true to their brotherhood, would love to advance together.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously they're, again, another team with an incredible lineup, so not too surprising to see both of them have a chance to go to the winner's match, but they've got to get past players like this right here, right with the orange stripes. The last one we will be introducing is going to be JiMin. And, you know, just saying, okay, I want to get that good start. I want to get my start boost well right at the very beginning of each track. And this is that racer we were talking about earlier who used to be the item ace for Liiv SANDBOX, but he's always been an incredible speed racer in his own right.
Yeah, justifiably now a hybrid racer here. Is we got a lot of fans supporting him out here in the audience. Is, you know, JiMin, for an item ace, impressed me to no end in KDL Preseason 1. It's no surprise that he is back in the round of 16 here in KDL Preseason 2. Is this lobby looks like we're going to be getting ready to go underway, man. I cannot wait to get started. This is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. For anyone who is new to the solo mode, it is a race to first 50 points. You get points based on your rankings of each track, and the first place winner of each track selects the next. But to kick things off, we will be going to Mine Rickety Rails. And kicking things off, it is JiMin who holds that record here on Rickety Rails, right over 1 minute and 38 seconds. See if he's able to continue that to be able to select the next track coming up.
Yeah, Luning with a really great start out of the gate, was able to block off a lot of players, but now falling into third place as Most, Hero, and Luning all contesting these top spots, man. It is really tight here in the front of the pack.
Yeah, and of course, kind of the two players that we were highlighting here in the broadcast, JJONG and HoJun, they had a rough start early on, but they're just trying to find an opening here. Most, I think this is the position that he wants to keep, right? Where he's not getting collided too much. He just wants to get those podium finishes, barely get enough points to move on to the winner's match.
Yeah, of course, top 4 advance to that winner's match, bottom 4 fall out, and really the seeding doesn't matter too much beyond that point. So for a player like Most, just trying to stay safe, stay in the middle of the pack, get a lot of points every single race, it's a good way of booking that ticket to the winner's match. But as it is right now, HoJun, although he didn't have the best start, working his way all the way up into third place with some fantastic racing now, trying to contest these topper ranks. But look at how many players we have right behind him, man.
Yeah, everyone's just bunched up, but HoJun, we noticed that he was just doing very good defense to make sure he doesn't get collided too hard out of his own build. Meanwhile, because of all this contention, Luning and Spell, they've had their own rivalry going on here in the top 2 positions, trying to see who's able to secure first as we wrap up lap 3.
And on top of that, just kind of drafting off of each other to solidify that position as well. Actually, no, wow!
Hero and Spell both fall off, and now it's just Luning way up front, makes way for Spear in second place, but Luning knows he has this in the bag. He doesn't see them behind him anymore. Meanwhile, JiMin trying to shoot forward. Can he at least get second place? He's got that extra boost, but Spear's got another one lined up, and it will be Luning and Spear, then JiMin in the podium finishes here on track 1.
Oh man, what a heartbreaking disaster there for Hero and Spell. They were both in the top 4, you know, gearing up for a podium finish, and then I'm not sure exactly what went wrong, as it was a little bit ahead of the camera there, but both our racers falling off the track and falling all the way back down into 7th and 8th place as what turned from what was a promising start here in the round of 16 match 2 just did not go their way, and Luning sets a new record here, 138 overall, 10 points on the board, and just as Will said earlier, it is a race to 50. So once the first racer gets 50 points, we're gonna look at where the standings fall, and that will decide who advances to the winner's match and who will fall to the loser's match. But man, a dramatic finish there to track number 1, my goodness.
Yeah, rough for Hero and Spell. Just looks like, you know, trying to contest against each other, and they barely kind of lose control and drift slightly off the railing. Obviously just trying to make sure, I'm sure everyone just trying to make sure they keep up in their boost gauges as well. But all in all, that wraps it up. Meanwhile, the man on camera here, Most, the rookie who showed up, and it's his first time on stage. I mean, he impresses everyone by making it to the round of 16. He finished in 5th place, so not so bad, right? He is still kind of in line to try to get that pension meta going. We'll see. I think that seems to be his goal as well, not playing too aggressively. Curious to see if he's able to keep that up. And, oh, well, this is a new meta of fan signs. You usually see double fan signs are usually horizontal, but now this one's you flipped your monitors both vertically so you can get one big monitor that says JJONG. I like it, I like it.
A lot of fans out here to support these racers as we're going to continue on with the solo matches, getting ready to go into track number 2. Luning right now leading with 10 points as we move on to Forest Zigzag Timberland. And off we go in the woods of Timberland. Spear here on the left side going to try and sweep and find his way into a good position, but does not get the better end of the trade as JiMin, HoJun, and Luning racing away in the top 3 pack.
Yeah, of course, Spear just trying to go for a hard cut early on to really fill up that boost gauge, see if it pays off in the long run. JiMin currently not being contested too much, but of course we've got those hairpins at the end of each lap here in Zigzag Timberland. So everyone's still going to be able to kind of bunch up together once again and find an opening.
Yeah, but keep in mind that this track, although it is a little bit easier in speed mode to pass your opponents because, you know, everyone's not really working together to zone each other out, it's still very narrow with a lot of long, wide sweeping turns in addition to those hairpins, and as a result of that, it's difficult to take lines because, you know, one bad collision could have you falling all the way to the back of the pack, and this is not team match. You do not have teammates in position to help you out. It's all about survival here, so would not be surprised to see JiMin and Luning do a great job of holding on to these top 2 ranks.
Oh, and JJONG and HoJun, a little bit of contention against each other, but JJONG found the right draft timing. He now takes over into 3rd place. Meanwhile, JiMin, he's trying to find an opening, but Luning should have the acceleration to keep ahead just for now as you wrap up lap 1 and go into lap 2. And JJONG says, okay, you guys fight amongst each other. I will start to shoot ahead.
And this long straightaway, JJONG is able to take advantage of those collisions and work his way into 1st place. Now JiMin will supplant him there for a moment as we just see these, you know, continue to trade hands here as these 3 racers. Now HoJun also getting mixed into the fray as the top 4 breaking away from the rest of the pack, but doing a great job.
Yeah, and Spell just says, don't forget about me. Starts to poke his head into the top 4 just a little bit, but hits the wall. He's going to lose a little bit of speed there. Now, HoJun's been finding some good draft timings to double up with his boost to start to catch up. That's how he gets all the way up now into the top 2. JiMin's still holding on to it for now, but JJONG, he actually gets shoved out a little bit by Spell around that corner. He's going to lose a bit of speed.
Yeah, and that hurts because JJONG was doing a great job of filling up his nitro gauge, was a little bit ahead on boost compared to everybody else, but now going to have to use that just to catch up. And we had one player, Ricochet, fall all the way back to the middle ranks, and now JiMin solidifying his position here in first place. Can he hold on to it through these very tight turns? Looks like so far, yes.
Oh, but JJONG, he tries to go aggressive, but he collides. He's not able to keep up that boost momentum. Meanwhile, Luning, he's shown all the way back up.
Oh!
He's actually able to beat JiMin out around the corner. JiMin bumps into the wall. Meanwhile, Luning finishes first place once again. Spear right behind him, and Hero in third.
That was a bad collision there for JiMin, who fell all the way from first place down to fourth. And of course, yes, you're still going to get podium. You're going to rack up a lot of points. But man, that one hurts as he went from what could have been a 10-pointer to what, 3, 5 points? As Luning doubles up now, 20 points in total on the board. As I'm trying to think back on previous solo matches, and I don't think we've really had any perfect runs yet, have we? We've gotten people come close, but...
Yeah, I mean, perfect runs are really hard to come by, so not quite yet, but Luning's on the way, right?
Yeah,
First
2
place.
out of 5.
Yeah, 2 out of 5, and then Spear, of course, right behind him, second place in both tracks as well. So catching up with 14 points, and with that type of finish, you start to already see a gap in the points, right? I mean, if everyone keeps getting that same position, Luning's going to start to shoot ahead and maybe even get that perfect finish.
Yeah, Luning and Spear right now pulling away from the pack there in top 2, whereas we have a lot of other players fighting for that cutoff spot. Keep in mind that rank 4 is the position where, you know, you get that top 4, you are going to the winner's match. You have 2 lives left in this tournament, so to speak. If you fall to that losers in the bottom 4, you know, from there on out, you have to play with your life on the line. So there's a lot of pressure on these guys to continue the fight, to continue to get that top 4 position, and we'll see which players are able to redeem themselves as we get ready to move on to track number 3. It'll be Mine 3 Shortcuts.
Luning's pick once again. We're starting to see a pattern, a couple of these tracks with those hairpins, with a lot of those turns. And Luning just trying to prove that he's got the best builds in mind. We already saw a little bit of aggression early on in the track, and now we're starting to see the pack spread out just a bit.
Yeah, it's a smart decision by Luning, too, as he also holds the record on this track. This is his bread and butter, so watch to see Luning try to get a 3-peat as he takes the tightener line. Oh, wow, that collision!
Oh, no! Well,
Okay,
he
so
doesn't fall off, but
yeah.
he loses just as much time, quite frankly. He gets entirely stopped as he tries to recover against the aggression of his opponents. And now Hero says, this is my chance to shine. He's trying to hold on to that first place. Meanwhile, Most, he hasn't had the best finishes so far, but he desperately wants to make a name for himself by moving on to the winner's match, currently in second place.
Yeah, he's still only a handful of points away from that top 4 cutoff, so for Most, if he's able to get a top 3 or a podium here, would love to see it for him as the rookie's going to try and fight up against the pros. Hero right now leading the pack in first place, Most right behind him. Spear with the outer line, trying to find an angle to pass Most, but as of yet, not really able to get anything come to fruition.
Yeah, meanwhile, we see in the picture-in-picture, Luning just not finding a way to really catch up. He's still far away from even 7th place, so he should be pretty much out of the picture here for a podium finish. Meanwhile, my eyes are on Most. Can he hold on to that top 3, or will he eventually get shoved out? Spell's starting to look for an angle here to make an aggressive move.
Yeah, now with Spell coming in, the pressure on Hero is going to start mounting here, especially if these players are able to close the distance. And oh, HoJun's also entering the fray as Most falls back to 3rd place, and Hero, while he still is able to hold on to first, Most is right behind him with a lot of boost. I think the boost gauge might be a little bit better for Hero, though.
Yeah, but HoJun finds that opportunity as they bump against each other, and HoJun will eventually finish first. He makes a run for it in the caverns themselves, and he finds a great angle to just cut ahead without having to actually go for too sharp of a drift, so he doesn't lose too much speed. He's able to maintain that boost, and now he makes a name for himself in that first place finish, gets to select the next track.
Yeah, and that's a great win there for HoJun, who is sitting at, I think, 4th place with 7 points, now moving all the way up to 17, and you can see he's very thoughtful right now about what the next track pick is going to be. There's a lot of points in the bags here for the Emperors. He solidifies his position, moving all the way up to rank 2, right behind Luning, who was able to work his way into 7th place. As, you know, top 3, it's starting to feel pretty tight. I mean, there's still a 5-point separation between Spear and Most, and as far as top 4 goes, we still have a lot of players closer to the bottom of the rankings that are still contesting that position.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big news for everyone is, you know, the fact that Luning didn't get any points, right? So, okay, you have a little bit of more breathing room. You've got a couple more tracks to go. HoJun immediately shoots up to 17 points trying to contest here. And of course, a Hero, as we see on screen, one of HoJun's protégés actually back in Kart Rider League. desperately trying to claw his way back into the point standings as well as, okay, HoJun, he says we're gonna take a little bit of a different scenery here, getting ready for round 4. We will be going to World Tour New York Rally.
And off we go on the streets of New York. HoJun's map choice. Let's see what he's able to make happen here.
All right, Spear and JJONG in the lead. Now JJONG starting to try to climb back in as well. He got that 3rd place finish previously on 3 shortcuts. Now he's in the lead here in New York Rally.
Yeah, JJONG doing a great job. Just able to play his build right now with a significant gap between him and everybody else. But with those drafts, watch to see Spear, HoJun, and Most start to close the distance. Although that collision there for Most takes a little bit of the wind out of his sails. And now it's JJONG playing a 1v2 right now, trying to hold on to pole position.
Yeah, Most, he has to take it. Not the most ideal line there, but he's still able to just defend himself against his opponents. I mean, that's the thing, right? You can have the best track records ever in time trial, but when you're up against 7 other racers, there's so many other variables to consider. HoJun just barely catching that drift to maintain his gauge as he tries to shoot back into the top where everyone's bunched up. He's trying to shove people back into the tree.
Yeah, and that outer line really beneficial for him. His left side was so cluttered. And now HoJun, clean breakaway here into 2nd place, will with a boost be able to pass Hero into 1st. And now with some collisions, actually zoning out both Hero and JiMin, but Hero does get the better end of that last trade. As we continue on, keep in mind this is a 1-lapper. We're more than halfway through this track as we're entering the twilight. Spell now in 1st place, HoJun and Hero right behind him.
Yeah, now HoJun, he tries to go for an aggressive intercut there, but he's gonna hit the corner. Another player getting bounced off the staircases near the end. Now JiMin, he gets shoved out early on in the track, but now he's breaking away. He doesn't want to give the draft timings to any of his opponents, but Hero's got one more boost, and it's not gonna be enough. JiMin finishes in 1st place, finally bringing himself back up the standings here with points.
Yeah, that was an insanely close finish between JiMin and Hero. For a moment, I thought Hero might have just enough momentum to carry him into 1st, but instead in a photo finish, JiMin finishing 1st place. I'm curious to see exactly, at a timetable, what the difference was between those 2 racers is. JiMin now getting on the board, and yeah, it's a 300th of a second, not even that.
Yeah.
That's like a frame or something, man. That is crazy.
That's a close one, and I mean, you gotta feel for HoJun because we have to remember in their first initial opening match and team matches in preseason 2, he had to play that ace match against Neil on this track, and even there, you do see Neil eventually finding the final draft, overtakes HoJun at the end, so I could tell that HoJun was trying to keep that in mind, make sure he's actually playing similar to Neil's position and style, but then he hits that wall, that corner near the end of the track, and he's not able to get a podium finish.
And so for HoJun, not really gaining that many points there. The middle of the race becomes a lot more hotly contested, but keep in mind, there are many tracks left to be played. Even if Luning were to win the next 2 tracks, there's still a guaranteed 3rd one, sitting only at 25 points overall. So a lot of kart rider left to be played. We'll see exactly where the dominoes are going to fall as we get ready to move on to the next track. It's going to be Desert Ancient Aqueducts.
And we're off. JiMin's pick here on Ancient Aqueducts. Of course, everyone just getting really bunched up. Most just trying to find an opening for himself so he can continue to race on his own build. Ooh, everyone's very close together around those first couple corners.
Yeah, HoJun actually got forced into the wall there, so loses a bit of momentum, falls to 6th place. And with all that congestion behind Luning, he's had a clean breakaway now, getting a lot of ground. Most also had a nice line there, but actually did collide with the wall, so he falls back as well now into 5th place, contesting here with JiMin. But, I mean, just look at this breakaway that Luning has, completely out of drafting range now even.
Yeah, he is way far ahead. Sure, things get a little bit narrow, and some players should be able to catch up here towards the end, but I don't see many worlds where Luning's letting go of that 1st place. Meanwhile, Spell and Spear, they're clumped up together, and Spell just barely tries to get the out into in, but he loses a bit too much speed trying to recover from that wall.
Yeah, Spear with a nice recovery himself, not losing too much ground there on Luning, as for a moment there, it almost felt like Spell was a sweeper on Luning's team, just kind of pushing everybody back, allowing him to break away as Luning continuing to hold on to that 1st place spot, but it is getting closer here. Spell now right behind him in drafting range, will use a boost, but looking at the boost gauge, Luning just feels like he constantly has 2 in the bag, so Luning doing a great job of building up that nitro and holding on to it, now fighting 1v1 versus Hero.
Yeah, and JJONG also making way to really catch up. He had just a bit of a better build there around those aqueducts. Meanwhile, Hero, he really needs these points. He's very close to the top 4 against JiMin right now with 16 versus 18 points. If he can even overtake Luning, he thought he had an opening, but he's not going to be able to find the angle. He gets pushed back just a tad bit, and that makes an opening for Spear to enter second place.
Yeah, it often happens here in these narrow corridors on ancient aqueducts, especially here by the finish line. Now Spear, actually with a lot of momentum, tries to go for the inner there to pass Luning, but Luning able to hold on now on this straightaway. Only a couple turns left. Luning, will he be able to navigate? And yes, he will, as Luning, even with a Nitro with a bag, finishes in first place. Spear right behind him, and JiMin and JJONG rounding out the top 4.
And I love what JiMin did there at the very end, right around the last 90 degrees. He says, okay, I just really need to stay ahead of Hero, right? I don't need to greed. They're already too far ahead in the 1-2 spot anyway. So he actually completely slows down to avoid any crazy collisions and getting swung out of his own drift. And that way he's able to keep that third place, stay ahead of Hero as well, and get a couple extra points to his name. And Luning finally setting a new record here on Ancient Aqueducts, takes down Byungsu's previous time.
Yeah, almost a full second ahead of Byungsu, as Luning really did feel like he was in time trial mode there, as he gets another 10 points on the board, now up to 35, as feels like Luning at this point all but assuredly going to be going to that winner's match, but still right behind him. It's so close in the middle ranks. I mean, oftentimes in these groups, especially in the earlier stage of these tournaments, you'll see 4 players really start to break away and 4 lag behind, but it just goes to show how talented this lobby is. No one's giving any ground, everyone staying competitive.
Yeah, but I mean, Luning's really starting to break ahead, right? Sure, he had a couple of those tracks where he wasn't gaining too many points. In fact, one where he got 7th place on 3 shortcuts. Doesn't get any points at all, but he continues to still be in first place. Can he maintain it as he gets that next track selection? He's bringing us back to another field-type track as we go to WKC Brazil Circuit.
And here we go on the streets of Brazil. Luning off to a great start now, only a first place and a 3rd place away from sending us home and finishing this one with 50 points.
All right, JiMin shooting forward, but Luning's right behind him. Now again, as we like to say about the field tracks, generally more opportunities for you to recover for yourself. However, Brazil Circuit is one of those where, again, a lot of these shortcuts, it's a risk-reward system, right? You have to take a long course on the grass, lose a lot of speed, but if you have your boosts lined up, you should still be able to come out on top.
Yeah, there's a lot of calculation that has to go into taking exactly the right line, especially if other racers are going for the same thing, because, you know, in this one, because there are, you know, different paths that you can take, there are some opportunities for you to take the safer route and avoid collisions and retain some speed that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw Most try that early on the very first shortcut, just trying to gain a bit more boost, but it hasn't paid off yet for him, and Steel sitting in 7th place. Meanwhile, Spear, Spell, JiMin, HoJun, I mean, all these players bunched up together. Spell will be able to finish the first lap in first place. Can he keep it on the second?
Yeah, HoJun building up a lot of nitro gauge here on this straightaway at the cost of speed, and we'll see if he can use that to pass Spear and Luning here, but the body blocking coming through in the clutch. HoJun not really able to find an opening, but, I mean, the Pendulon, it's so stacked here at the top. I mean, all 5 racers are in striking distance of each other now coming in. Seeing if we have some different lines. Hero will be able to work his way into 3rd place, but JiMin still holding on to 1st for now.
Oh, and
it's so close.
With a great build to try to maintain it, but Hero keeps contesting against him, and HoJun's not actually able to really execute the exact build he wants, so HoJun's now trying to go for a couple more cuts to try to regain his boost gauge. Meanwhile, Spear, he's tried to escape the pack, but Hero, he starts to shoot forward off of a draft and a boost. Can he keep that speed?
What an insane outer line there by Hero, just completely avoiding the crowd and able to work his way into 1st place. Now the question is, can he hold on to it? Is JiMin here able to pass him on the grass, only 500 meters away from the finish line now. Hero once again going on the outer line, able to get into 1st place here on the straightaway. It's all going to come down to the nitro, and it's going to be Hero barely finishing ahead of JiMin.
Yeah, he just blocks him out to make sure JiMin's not able to find an opening to try to cross him over. And Hero will get that 1st place finish, get to select the next track. The first time Hero has finished first here in Match 2 of the round of 16.
And that's going to take Hero from 5th place all the way into top 4, man. 19 points all the way up to 29, so he's solidifying his position here. Overall, 2nd place in team speed. So far here in KDL Preseason 2, now looking to advance to the winner's match following the round of 16 as he sets a track record 1.58.3 seconds.
Yeah, just a great run here. And that was with him contesting against a lot of these other players. So like you said, shoots up to 29 points. HoJun still sitting at 20, but he's not that far off. Of course, we still have a couple extra tracks. Meanwhile, Most, not a bad finish here on that previous track, but sitting at 15, he's still got a little bit of ways to go to try to break into top 4.
Yeah, but we are running out of time. I mean, guaranteed 2 tracks left, maybe 3. These racers that are right now below 4th place, they're going to have to make some big plays if they want to come back in this one.
All right, what's the choice going to be here from Hero? Player representing Aura, who had a rough loss earlier tonight. But can he redeem himself in the solos? Meanwhile, JiMin, representing Liiv SANDBOX, still sitting with a healthy amount of points himself, trying to just make sure he gets into that winner's match. You just want to have a little bit of that breathing room here in the solos, but we are getting ready. It is going to be Hero's choice on mind-winding slopes as we get into round 7 in the solos. We have 3 racers sitting in the 30-point range, Luning with 34, as we saw one of the players hit the pillar, falls far behind. Maybe it was Hero himself trying to bring us onto this track, but not a good start for him.
Oh, and HoJun right now in 5th place. We got to keep an eye on him as he's also 5th place overall in standings. 9 points behind Hero right now, as that is the cutoff for top 4 and advancing to the winner's match. So look to see him try to do his best job to finish podium here and gain some more points.
Yeah, and for racers like JJONG and Most, I think Most actually having to slow down a little bit to recover, but these are players who are just shy of trying to contest for that top 4. They actually need pretty much 1st place to get enough of a point lead and get an advantage in that track selection as well.
Yeah, you need 1st place, or you need to get podium and have your rivals finish poorly. And actually a bad collision there. I think JJONG, it's going to be JJONG who falls all the way to 8th place, so that's going to be a disaster for him now, as we're solidifying the top 4 right now. It's Spell, Luning, Most, and Spear breaking away from the pack.
Yeah, Spell only with 2 points, but if he gets 1st place, it's simply going to extend our solo match tonight for just a bit longer. See if that's going to make a difference for any of these players, maybe even including Spell himself. That would put him back into double digits. Meanwhile, Most just trying to make sure he doesn't lose speed. He just wants to get into the podium, try to contest for top 4.
Only 200 meters left to go, and on this straightaway it will be Spell picking up a much-needed win here in 1st place. Spear, Luning, and Most rounding out the top 4, as Spell finally going to be able to put up a track. As coming into this one, man, he only had 12 points. The cutoff in 4th place right now at 29, but I love how you said that this really buys everybody time, because it's not one of those top racers. It's not Luning, Spear, JiMin, or Hero adding points and getting closer and closer to that top 50. That's the guy all the way down in 8th place. So we may have an additional track left to be played, and I mean, maybe Spell, maybe there is some world he can go on a Hero run and make it to the top 4 right now, sitting all the way back down at 12 there with JJONG in 13. But really, my eyes now are on the top 6 with HoJun and Most, both 10 points or less shy from top 4.
Yeah, I mean, again, this gives a lot of space here for Most and HoJun to try to really solidify their rankings, right? The top rankings are now getting closer and closer to get a 39 versus 38 for number 1 and 2 between Luning and Spear. JiMin sitting behind at 33. And then it's really anybody's game. Hero, of course, still a little ways ahead with 29 points, but if he continues to fall far behind, it's not going to look good. As you get ready for the next track, it is going to be Glacier Extreme Stadium.
Here we go in track 8 of the round of 16 match 2 solos right now. Luning in 1st place with 39 points. Spear with 38 points right behind him, all but LOX for going to that winner's match. And we don't have too many tracks left to be played here in the solos, Will. These players that are right now sitting just below position 4 on the rankings, they got to rack up a lot of points to qualify for that winner's match.
Yeah, with the 39 and 38 points each for Luning and Spear, chances are we've got exactly 2 tracks left, including this one, right? So if either of them get 1st place, it's pretty much a lock for just 1 extra track. But even if not, they should be able to average around 11, 12 points. So curious to see how that pans out. Meanwhile, JiMin just trying to make sure he doesn't get crept on here in the top 4. He wants to get that 1st place solidified and try to get that next track selection.
Yeah, JiMin doing a great job of holding on through these hairpin turns, and also Most, a player that needs a lot of points right now to get up into top 4, is, gearing up for a podium, but with Luning hot on his tail, I mean, I think we're getting closer and closer to the end here, you know, with only 2 tracks left. So he really needs to make this one happen, and so far he is coming through under pressure right now, all the way up into 2nd place.
Yeah, I mean, if he also gets 1st place, he might be able to make a run against Hero for that top 4. Curious to see. He is back in top 1-2 contention, but Luning, what a monster he's been in the round of 16 so far. He's gunning for yet another 1st place finish as we enter the last sections of this track.
Yeah, Luning's just been an absolute monster here as we continue on lap number 2. Most right behind him, actually able to take a tight inner right there and even colliding with Luning, pushing him back. So that's Luning losing momentum coming into the hairpins now. Most with a nice first line, but JJONG actually with a tighter inner is going to be able to supplant him, take 1st place, but he clips the corner and he's going to fall back, and now it's Hero, JiMin, and Most rounding out the top 3.
Oh no, and that makes way for even Spell to try to catch up. Most actually gets collided all the way back on the last jump. I think he might have dropped off the track as well. So unfortunate for Most. He had such a good entry into those hairpins, but then he tries to take the safe route right in the very end, just making sure he starts on the out first, and then he'll just zigzag back in. With the boost and the acceleration in favor of his opponents, they are able to maintain it, and Hero, the man sitting in 4th place, continues to shoot forward with yet another 1st place finish.
And Most and HoJun were looking so good coming into that final hairpin turn, but both of them had a blunder, and they were right there sitting at 5th and 6th place. And now look at the difference between 4th and 5th with Hero racking up that win. 39 points to 21, as it feels like at this point, top 4 has solidified with Spear, JiMin, Luning, and Hero, unless some miracle happens, all but assuredly going to that winner's match in what potentially might be our last track.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. Now, we should mention, because Spear is just shy of that 7-point range, everyone currently in the 40s has to get the 10 points, right? They have to get 1st place to lock things out here on the next track. Curious to see what the choice is going to be here from Hero. But yeah, I mean, there's 3 players that are gunning for it, so there's a good chance. Okay, it is going to be Village Boom Hill Tunnel going into round 9. Does it wrap up here or not? Let's find out as we go to this next track. Village Boom Hill Tunnel, it's going to be Hero's choice, but it's going to be 3 other racers that are looking to get 1st place and finish the night here for the round of 16 and the solo matches.
Yeah, Spear, JiMin, and Luning, if any of them can come through with the 1st place here, that will end the solo matches for the day and solidify the top 4. So everybody out of that top 3 spot right now, maybe with the exception of Hero in 4th place, praying that they fall down and they get another track to try and prove their mettle and qualify. But so far, it's looking good, man. Spear, the point leader overall right now in 1st place, and JiMin in 2nd place on the rankings overall, right behind him here in 3rd.
Yeah, what a story it would be, though, if Most is the one who changes that destiny for both himself and some of the other racers, right? He barely is able to shoot forward here in 1st place, and JiMin's contesting, but in a 1v1, Most should be okay. It's when he struggles against multiple other opponents. That's the part that he doesn't have as much experience in. Curious to see, do they take the railing build here? Most looks like he's lined up for it, so is everybody else behind him.
Yeah, everybody here in the top 4 at least going for that railing build. Actually, JJONG staying on the curve for a long time. We'll be able to get him ahead of Luning. Because I love that line for JJONG. And look at this cascade of collisions that happens as a result of it. Entering now the latter portions here. Most still in 1st place. Keep in mind, if Most wins this, we will get at least 1 more track. JiMin right behind him.
He's got a draft.
With the inner line, the collision comes through. But oh my goodness!
Most loses control of his cart. And JiMin will be able to shove him out, get that last boost. Oh man, you gotta feel for Most. Here's the thing, is that JiMin found the draft opening and then Most blocks him, but because of that collision, Most doesn't realize he's gonna actually have to do a little bit of recovering maneuverability, so he spins out of control just a bit on that last corner, doesn't have a boost to recover his own control, and JiMin finishes in 1st place, just barely out of Most, wrapping up the night here for the solo matches in the round of 16.
Yeah, Most just barely after that collision going a little bit too wide, and JiMin had a straighter route into the finish line, and here we have our top 4 at the end of the day. It's a wide separation with JiMin, Luning, Hero, and Spear all advancing to the winner's match. Now for HoJun, Most, Spell, and JJONG, this is not the end of the story for them here in the solo matches. They will fall to the losers. So there's more left to be played for them here today.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, another shot. But quite frankly, while it is JiMin who wraps up in 1st place here in match 2, Luning, the guy who was just on the camera, he's the one who really put the pressure against everyone else, getting those repeated first place finishes. Of course, and it's Hero and Spear sitting next to each other, who will take the next remaining slots in the top 4, moving on to the winner's match.
And what a wonderful way to end the day here of KDL. I mean, this is a fantastic solo match. We knew coming in it was going to be a show, and it certainly delivered.
Yeah, I mean, what an insane finish here from JiMin. And listen, I mean, we keep talking about him because, again, he is that kind of pure rookie, right, who doesn't have any experience on stage. It's his first time entering the solos into the round of 32 and now 16. He isn't on any team. He still played a pretty good race. Curious to see how he performs in the losers match, but it's JiMin, Luning, Hero, and Spear who will be moving on to the winners. Try to get into that final 8 first and foremost. Meanwhile, HoJun, Spell, and JJONG. Now, these are players who are basically playing to survive here in the solo matches of Preseason 2.
Yeah, as we enter the double elimination portion here of the solos, you know, it's do or die for these guys in their upcoming match. And you know, a lot of fan favorites here too, especially with the Emperor HoJun in 5th place and JJONG. You know, kind of surprising me with an 8th place finish here today. I mean, this guy, he looked so good in KDL Preseason 1. He still seems solid in Preseason 2 in team speed, but just today was not quite his day. Only 16 points in total on the board.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, right? His ace matches have always been good. His team matches have been good. And, of course, he has an incredible history back at the KRPL. But so far, the jury's still out to say that, okay, in an 8-man free-for-all solos, you haven't really shown that you know how to contest against these other players and defend your own positions as well when you don't have any teammates to also work off of and things like that. Or it's not a 1v1, right? There's just too many other factors to consider. So maybe JJONG's still trying to get used to it, but we know what he's capable of in terms of pure potential, so I wouldn't write him off just yet.
Yeah, especially considering how creative his builds were in those ace matches in KDL Preseason 1. I mean, they shocked all of us with the tight lines that he was able to make. And, you know, he didn't really play in solo match KDL Preseason 1 either. This is his first time playing the solo matches in Kartrider Drift League. So it is a bit of an adjustment period. He's already in the round of 16. He's going to move on to the losers match. And while he would love to be in the winners, I think that the story is not going to end there for him.
Yeah, and it's also, again, it's just preseason. We saw the same thing with HoJun, right? A guy who we've known can always adjust to new patches, new games for Kartrider. And he had a rough time in Preseason 1. We all said, okay, you know what, maybe the fact that you did retire for a little bit is really costing you. And then he comes back and says, no, I've really learned from that. I'm grinding. Preseason 2 looks a lot better in both team and solo. So, again, we got to look at the big picture. We're still just in the preseasons. Patches are still continuing to flow and really kind of change things. People are getting used to the nuances as well. So, it's not all over just yet. But ladies and gentlemen, that's it for matches. Let's take a look at what happened today here at KDL Preseason 2. We kick things off with our 2 team matches, of course, of the top 4 teams from Preseason 1. First up, it was Seongnam ROX versus Aura.
Seongnam ROX versus Aura in a match that definitely delivered. This one went down to the wire, 3-1 in speed, 3-2 in item, almost the full distance there in both those sets as Seongnam ROX continues their undefeated streak here in the Preseason 2 of the KDL. And for Aura, this is a painful loss because now their playoff story, it's a little bit in question, you know, fighting up against Sensation, who have played, I think, 1 less set overall, if I'm not mistaken. And if Sensation comes through and they win that one, then it's going to be tough for Aura to hang on. But at least for Aura, you know, the toughest portion of their schedule, it's out of the way. They played all 3 pro teams. They just have to really deliver against the rookies now.
Yeah, absolutely. So they'll really have to win all the remaining matches for themselves. Meanwhile, the rematch of the Preseason 1 finals and, of course, a rivalry through and through between Liiv SANDBOX and KWANGDONG FREECS. The FREECS come out quite dominantly, 3-1 in both speed and item mode. No need for an ace match in this one.
Yeah, and this was surprisingly one-sided in the favor of the FREECS, man. I mean, we did have that one item track where they got like 5 Thunderbolts, which, I mean, that's anyone that gets that many Thunderbolts, I mean, that's kind of crazy. But besides that, in speed and also in the rest of the item tracks, they just looked so solid. They had a clear game plan, and now with a +14 round differential and a 5-0 record, I mean, they're looking unstoppable. Yeah. Certainly going to be the first seed, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think now the question is, can ROX do any damage to the FREECS, right? Because if they do, I mean, the FREECS have currently played 1 extra match, so if ROX is able to beat the FREECS, then ROX really making a run for that first seeding going into the tournament stage. Meanwhile, like we mentioned, Sensation currently sitting ahead of Aura. I also believe those 2 teams haven't met yet, so that's probably going to be the determining match between those 2 teams to see who gets in the top 4. Meanwhile, potential Seraph against Showtime, right? 3 of these amateur teams that have a couple new players, some of them with entirely new rosters that haven't had any stage time. So curious to see how they continue to develop the rest of this preseason.
And now looking at the round of 16 results from the solo match. Of course, yesterday we had Cool, World, Ding, and Neil advance to the round of 16 winners with Seongnam, Hyunsu, Joker, and Dutzy falling down to the losers. They will meet the losers from today, JJONG, HoJun, Spear, and JiMin in a battle to survive. But you know, the winners match, it's looking crazy, man. I mean, Luning, he's been looking so good so far this year. Hero as well, Spear and JiMin too. I mean, the former item ace for Liiv SANDBOX just continues to deliver in these solos, and I cannot wait to watch that round of 16 winners match. It's going to be so much fun.
I mean, yeah, it's, again, the round of 16 is entirely stacked, but the winners match, right? We've got a triple KWANGDONG FREECS, you've got double Liiv SANDBOX, you've got double Aura. I mean, it's a very, very stacked lineup. And then the losers match, too. To think that we're going to have to say goodbye to 4 of those players that we saw still remaining, it's going to be a rough one in solos. But, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we continue on Wednesday, which means it's going to be a night of team matches.
Yeah, Wednesday will start 6 p.m., same as today, same as yesterday, with Showtime versus Liiv SANDBOX, Potential versus Sensation, and Seraphic versus Seongnam ROX. Of course, on Wednesdays, we have 3 team matches. On the weekends is when we do the solos. So should be a lot of fun seeing exactly where these teams end up shaking out. Hopefully these rookies will be able to come through with an upset. It hasn't really happened yet in KDL Preseason 2. As, you know, Showtime versus Liiv SANDBOX, Potential versus Sensation, Seraphic versus ROX. Every team on that right side, they feel so favored.
Yeah, these are all basically David and Goliath stories in their own right. So I think the storyline for Wednesday will more so be have those kind of bottom teams improved and figured out their own win conditions to try to get, for some of them, their first win here in team matches of preseason 2. But if not, we're going to continue to see kind of the top teams really start to break away here at KDL.
Yeah, and Sensation with a win on Wednesday also would really solidify their position in top 4 and put a ton more pressure on Aura. So even though it's 3 on paper mismatches, there's still a lot of importance in them determining who's going to go to the postseason, who isn't.
Yeah, I mean, same for Seongnam ROX, right? Sure, they'll probably win the match, but can you keep up that round and set differential so that when you meet, you know, the other pro teams, you can confidently say, okay, well, no matter what, we're shooting ahead of you regardless of the other matchup. So, again, everything still is going to matter in terms of shaking things up. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for KDL Preseason 2. Tonight, we return on Wednesday at 6 p.m. We'll see you then.